Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Valoranting, the show that's better at burning bridges than building them. This week, we talk about Europe's latest tournament with a bit of a twist. We're going to have a chance to chat with Banks, who was, of course, part of the commentary team for that event. We have a gloss back over VCT over this previous weekend in NA. And then we talk to United's latest acquisition, Jmoh. Great to have you back, everybody. I'm Mitch Leslie here, joined by Veli and Van Silly. Guys, I mean, at the start of the year, we kind of knew things would start to pick up pace pretty quickly, but even this has surprised me. So much going on this last week.
Go ahead, this has been crazy. Okay, so the VCTs are here, right? And we're watching it in every region as they come along. But not only that, we have the Red Bull tournaments happening in Europe. We have so much happening in Valorant, and I can't wait to cover it all here.
For me, I think I've streamed like 40 hours in the past 3 days because I wanted to catch up on like the Red Bull home ground. I wanted to catch up on a bit of the VCTs. We were doing watch parties for the VCTs with Nursery Gamers, and I've been tired. I've been having a lot of fun, but that's only like one region, and I still have to catch up to like Brazil, Korea, Europe. There's so much going on, so it's great that it starts off right away here in the first month of like 2021.
Even just trying to juggle, I think, VCT NA and Homegrounds EU, there was just so much to watch. And that's only just a couple of regions. So there is Valorant competition kicking off all over the world right now. And you pretty much just have to pick and choose a couple regions and hope to try and hang on by the skin of your teeth. Let's jump into roster news this week, because we obviously had a couple bits and pieces drop last week, and obviously we've had some new developments now. Let's start with this Evil Geniuses roster, because we teased it last week. We got to, well, not see, we were aware of their first showing this weekend in the VCT quals.
Yeah. EG is going to be, I think this is a great pickup. Honestly, like, I hope that people aren't thinking like, oh, it's like a, female, it's a marketing ploy, blah, 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 blah. Like, you have to think about, at least for me, Potter, she's like an 8-time Counter-Strike 1.6 women's champion in 1.6. She's a great analyst that understands the game for Counter-Strike very well. Make her to switch over to Valorant. I mean, she's on my friends list where I see her play all the time with Moses. Like, she's breathing this game too. And to have that mentality and possibly be the captain for the team, don't know if she's going to be the IGL, but I think she's a great addition. But you're thinking about two other players that came from Moon Raccoons. They're great players as well. Asias is one of the guys that maybe not many people hear about, but has been amazing with Mamba Gaming in a short stint at the same time when they play with Critical. And Claudia is another one here from Project X that was that popped off there during the for the women's tournament. And I think overall this roster is great. Yeah, they didn't have any great performances during the VCTs, but this is a brand new team. You have to give them time to like settle and get into the fray of things. But at the same time, there's that rumor of the coach too. But Veli, I'll let you take it first.
Yo, first off, they didn't do bad. If you take a look at the teams that they went against Serenity. They went against Serenity, fans. And Serenity, they're not a bad team. They're actually a good team. And for those of you out there, you're tuning in and you don't know who Serenity is or how good they are, this is a team that took Sentinels to a best of 3 right afterwards. Evil Geniuses actually could have took this to a third map as well. They did extremely well when it came to split. It was what? Yeah, 11-3. You take a look at the stats. This is the best part about this, though, is what they're planning on doing in the future. This is a new team, like Van Silly just said. Alexander, he's on Yoru. He's on Yoru. That is insane. And the thing is, they don't show that on film. They don't.
Yeah.
You have me all up in the camera. I'm looking at the screen like a but like, they have things under their sleeves that we're not even like ready yet for. So I'm waiting to see how this team is going to be about a month from now, see how they turn out. And, maybe they might surprise us in this second VCT qualifier.
That's something I'm super sad not to be able to see Yoru being played at all, I think, through the NA qualifiers. But at the same time, I think it's great. I think as they're trying to get their team together and their core, that rumor of a coach, there was maybe like on December 7th or back in December, there's a tweet that came out from Jimmy Lin, former EG Canada back in like 2003, 2005, maybe a little bit later, 2004, 2006. And I talked about him last week, I think, on Valoranting, where these guys as Team 2D almost won against LG during the Winners' Championship, where Jimmy Lin actually just had to call on the fly because nobody wanted to play a Sentinel. So he played a Raze, he played triple duelist, and he even almost beat LG at that point. So a guy to just call in the spot, who wants to play what? Okay, this is what we're going to try to do. This is how I think LG is going to play, and still almost bring him to the third map and almost beating them in a pug setting. You got to commend Jimmy Lin for that. And the reason why I say Jimmy Lin is because we saw his name sign up too for the Reddit detectives out there that he signed with that EG roster before they were announced as the official roster, as a 6th player or whatever in the VCTs. So there's potential and rumors that Jimmy Lin might be their coach, and that's something that's a great addition to the team too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, to be fair, maybe aren't super familiar, but we're talking the same kind of caliber pedigree as someone like Fraud, right? Someone who's been around for just that long, who's been tenured as a really respected voice in sort of the NA sort of scene. So keep an eye out for that one. Yeah, again, we haven't really seen much of Potter. I think she lost to Magical in the FTW tournament, I want to say. So she was definitely there. Her resume as a Counter-Strike player is undeniable. I had seen her mostly doing talent stuff, casting in the more recent sort of history. So we'll see how obviously she transitions, I guess, into sort of maybe much more seriously. Wait a minute, she worked on Flashpoint as well. So
yeah,
she
did.
That's what I'm saying. So she's been analyzing this Valorant.
Yeah, she has been embedded in this scene since the beginning.
And I just want to add, I want to make sure that people don't think that this is like a marketing ploy. Oh, we need to be more inclusive. Of course, we have to be inclusive for things.
Okay.
I've always been a fond advocate about this, and I'm against the stereotype and the misogynistic comments that doesn't allow women to actually just play or even rank games, right? It's just like as soon as their voice comes out, they're just getting bashed. And then now it's like, oh, let's do a marketing ploy so that we could try to make things more inclusive for women. These women are actually really freaking skilled. Look at Cloud9 White, for example. Like they're doing amazing as a 5-women roster, pushing forward throughout their brackets and their tournaments, upsetting Renegades during the WSOE qualifiers. And when you're looking at different games too, I'm thinking about Hafu in World of Warcraft. Like she was amazing with the team that she played with. I'd like to say that was with EG as well. They've been performing at the top too when it was her or KL or whatever. I might be off on that roster. It's been 2011. I mean, Sir Scoots, he knows. Alchemist knows. I fell asleep during the broadcast too as a desk host, so we're not going to talk about that now. But I'm thinking about her. I'm thinking about Goddess in Rainbow Six. What I like most about here in this roster for EG is that it's not necessarily like, hey, it's going to be 4 guys and a girl that's going to play. It's going to be 2 women. It's 40% of the team, and they're looking to make great results, not because of who they are. It's just because how they're able to perform in the game. So let's keep that in mind. And I think this is a great step forward for looking at potentially more future co-ed teams where you have women that are able to pop off way better than some of these men right now in Valorant or any other games that they want to compete in.
Hey, Mitch, can I put the cherry on top when you're done?
Yeah, do it. Give me some like Cool Whip there as well.
All right, a little bit of Cool Whip for that thing, right? So let's just say, Vans, I agree with everything that you have said just now. I come from Rainbow Six. You guys saw my backdrop in previous shows of Valoranting, right? We had on Cloud9 a woman named Goddess. I love Lauren to death. She was actually my favorite player. And because of her influence in the scene and actually being a champion, we're talking about winning international tournaments against Europeans and everyone else that comes in from Latin America on a professional team, top tier teams. She beat them. She has a trophy, and because of that, Forbes involved. There's so many eyes that came onto the scene. This is history being made. So for anyone out there that says, there's trying to bring in a girl, yada yada, like get with the fucking flow. It's 2021 now. These women can ball out of control, and they're extremely competitive. So I'm really excited to see what Claudia and Potter they have going on that roster.
And that was DreamHack 2018 for Montreal that she won. So
Nicole Lapointe, I believe, is her name.
Yes, the CEO of
EG. Yeah. She did an interview about this. She's like, no, we just picked 5 players that we thought would be good. Like it's pretty understated. Like no one is trying to lay down palm fronds and play the brass band about this whole announcement. It's just like, okay, yeah, we scouted 5 players. We think they're really good. There was really no mention actually about their gender. Like,
Mitch, no one wants to be that person that throws an experiment, like a co-ed experiment out there just for it to fucking fail. No one wants to do that in the first place. So there is reasoning behind it.
Yeah, but it's not labeled. It's not labeled as a co-ed experiment. It's a Valorant.
Right, exactly. But I'm saying like this isn't like
it's not a show match.
This is just for PR. Exactly. This is for real.
So, okay. So that means obviously we applied the same ruler and ledger to this team that we do every other, which we will be, and that we won't have an issue. I've been in Overwatch for a while, right? We obviously had a female player in the Shanghai Dragons who was incredibly good. And Chinese Contenders, for example, has like no less than 3 female players competing very regularly. So, maybe I'm desensitized to it. Maybe I've been away from the I've been away from the incel titles a little bit. I'm not
good.
really sure. Either way, let's move on because we got obviously some more roster moves to talk about. So officially now, Silence was announced to 100 Thieves. Obviously, there's more to this story. This is just the beginning of the story. Silence, as we now know, had been splitting time with Nitro in scrims in the lead up to this. So it's not as if they just threw him in there like, I don't know, Sean Payton puts Taysom Hill in for the Saints and expect him to actually be functional. Silence actually had some time to sort of acclimatize to this particular roster. Obviously, because Nitro had to take a back seat because he was expecting his first child. And there it is, Maverick. Absolute Chad. So there you go.
Beautiful,
Nitro,
baby.
another one to the Esports Dads Club, which is really starting to swell this year. A friend of mine also had his first child last night. So, I mean, congratulations, of course, to Nitro and his partner and that whole family. And strap yourself in, my guy. I hope you don't like sleep. I hope that ain't a thing. I hope you got a lot of. I hope you got a lot of sort of generic brand energy drink in your fridge ready to slam down. Because my understanding was actually that it was talked about on stream. I think maybe Hiko stream that Nitro was actually expected to return fairly early. He wasn't expected to be out of the game too long, which makes sense because in a game like Valorant, especially so young, you get left behind awfully quickly, like FaZe Clan did in the VCT qualifiers. We can talk about that later. So you gotta be quick on your feet. So Silence obviously right now is still involved for the near future as far as we understand, but it is temporary. I think we will discuss. Like I want to break this up a little bit. We'll discuss exactly what happened there. But first, a couple of thoughts, I guess, from you guys on Silence and maybe what he's expected to bring to this roster. I don't know if they want a carbon copy of Nitro or they can expect that.
Yeah. I think definitely for Silence, he brings in a lot of firepower. That's the main thing to think about when he's going to come into this roster, especially during the VCTs that you were expecting from him. To be able to match to what Nitro is doing, that's something we'll discuss a little bit later. But definitely he was going to be like maybe trying to think about how that was going to go with other teams in the past. We'll talk about it later as well. But I think it was just added firepower, and unfortunately it wasn't enough.
I mean, Nitro, he plays a lot of isolation roles. You see him in a lot of 1v1 spots. And the fact is, Silence, he can bang out with the best of them, right? So put the man in an isolated position on Omen, and he's going to be all right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he's just a temporary sub, right? So he did all right the first VCT.
One thing I'll add, though, just a temporary sub, but I think it's still really good for him in terms of the exposure that he's going to get after that, right? So let's give him that at least.
As long as he doesn't, as long as his stock doesn't get tanked by 100 Thieves that do bad, because there is that point, but there's also the question of like if they just get rolled and everyone just goes, it's definitely him. I mean, to be fair, somehow Dicey's catching all the smoke. We'll talk about that as well a little bit later on. So Silence so far is just dodging all the scrutiny, like, I'm good, fam. I'm just here for the holiday. So we'll see what goes on there. Another roster change or multiple roster changes to talk about. Again, something we touched on last week, but I want to expand on once more is Cloud9 Blue. Still making what I would say are wholesale changes. We actually sort of we hear, in this video, Relics, and we'll go to it in a sec, but we hear sort of Relics and I think Autumn talk about everything. They finally announced that obviously Shinobi is departing from the roster. We've known this for a while. Their welcome leaf, that was official last week. We got to see him sat on camera just sort of talking about it. With Tens departing, we're also looking at, Zeta, or Sunny as he was sort of named, coming over from South Korea, who apparently is on the ground in America, and also Autumn, who was the coach here. So the head coach is now Autumn, which means James IRL, who was previously coaching this roster, presumably takes a back seat or takes a more managerial role. In there. Okay, so he's not the head coach though.
Correct,
so it seems like he's been superseded by this newest acquisition.
No, definitely. I do think that Autumn is going to bring a lot into here. I think also his interview talks about how he wants to be like the mental into the game, keep it professional, keep the camaraderie for the team. And while I think James will still be very involved with like the strategy and stuff like that he's trying to develop with Vice and with Relics at the same time for this team. So I think this looks pretty complete. I think they look pretty good during the VCTs as well. Of course, it didn't qualify, but for the first time that Zeta and Autumn finally make it to NA and play now with the right ping, he still continues to look very, very good. So I think overall, again, with Tens departing, these two people coming into the roster is definitely a win-win situation for everybody, especially due to the fact that if Tens says that he wants to be back, we mentioned it last week, if you guys want to check out the VODs, but if you mentioned last week that, you know, he'll be back whenever land is available or when he feels the time is right. It kind of shows that, or to me at least, I have the assumption that he wants to join a team that for him could be a winning team. So the buyout could be huge. Cloud9 could get a huge influx of cash for that too. They can invest into other things for the current team and even into C9 White, while TenZ is going to be able to win by going into his winning team, kind of like what Twist is doing with FaZe right now in CSGO. So I think it's a great move for all of these parties.
I mean, first LAN event, here's what I want to see, right? I want to see C9 rock up, 5-man. You know, they actually talk about wanting a 6-man roster,
Correct.
by the way. Relic says that. I want C9 to set up on stage with 5 players and like a tapestry. And it's this really intricate tapestry of TenZ. It could be in one of TenZ's cosplays. That's fine. It could be a maid outfit or whatever. It doesn't really matter, right?
The Jet one.
And then I want him to fucking John Cena out of the tapestry, just like rip his way through. Obviously, maybe less masculine because, you know, he might be in a maid outfit. But, you know, he just slide his way through it all of a sudden, like this fucking, like, French horns, like, and he just right kicks Zeta off the stage and just, like, in one fell swoop, ends up in the scene. Uses Zeta's peripherals and settings and just frags out. This sounds like the kind of interest he wants to make. You know, just you know, and then all of a sudden, C9 just start winning. I mean, we'll see.
And ends it as a 6-man.
This might be a hot take or not. I think Cloud9 are going to be better than what they used to be with TenZ. And I know it sounds crazy to a lot of people out there. But let's think about it, right? There's one team that I heavily relate them to, and it's going to be Fish123. Fish123 was a damn good team, Vans. Fish123, you heard it on this show. We kept saying that they're the future, and now look at them, Team Liquid, right? But you put on a superstar, and just because you put a superstar on a great team doesn't mean it's going to mesh well. The play styles are going to conflict. It's not going to work out the way, you think it's going to be. With TenZ being gone now, they're going to go a heavy strategical route. You see it with the changes now with the personnel. They're bringing in Zeta from overseas. I think that this team, like Fish123 before they brought in Scream, are going to have a big chip on their shoulder. They're going to be extremely good. You already saw it. You saw it the first time they brought in Sunny, right?
Yeah.
Like, just their team play. Sunny setting up players, Leaf taking advantage of the setups to get the kills as a duelist. Like, the building blocks are there. I think that now with Xset and Ambox, teams like them coming up and getting in that top 6 conversation, I think Cloud9 could still be there. They're going to be better in this last iteration of the team. Now, that's going to be my hottest take, man. I really see something special with them, especially from what we saw last time around.
To just add on to what you were saying about comparing Cloud9 to Fish123, I think Fish123 looked amazing when Artist was in there too. When Artist left, Scream is the one that came in, right? And Scream was like that superstar play. I think that comparison is right there. You could compare Scream to like kind of like that TenZ, and they didn't have that many strong of a performances as a team for Team Liquid in the mid-year of 2020. They looked a lot better in 2021. We're going to talk about the Red Bull Home Ground soon, but I think now that they put the time and a strategy and they believe in a process that it works out, you're starting to see good results for Team Liquid. I think if Cloud9 kind of did the same thing with TenZ and kept working their way and trying to find the right coaches or even the right backing to help out, I'm not saying James is the wrong coach, but I think adding Autumn into it is another layer that can help out into Cloud9 Blue. That could have maybe helped out TenZ at the same time, but I think, you know, when you look back at the video that Steele was saying, hey, you remember, and he was talking to Hugo, hey, you remember what I was saying about when Shinobi was going to leave, TenZ was going to leave? There's a potential as well that TenZ was just looking for a better home where he could be more happy with the players that he's surrounded with.
Yeah, I think that there's probably a lot to that. I mean, you talk about the impact that Autumn can have, and it's probably going to be a little bit intangible initially, right? Going to be harder to spot. I think like the effect of coaching can be a little bit hard to identify this early on in a game like Valorant. But if you haven't seen the announcement or had a chance to sort of watch the video, here's a little snippet of it where we sort of get to hear from Autumn and what the mission statement kind of is for C9 Blue going forward.
선수들에게 제가 코치 생활을 하면서 이 전 커리어에 있어서도 항상 선수들에게 강조했던 게 프로페셔널리즘을 갖고 우리는 이제 프로 선수기 때문에 그거에 맞춰서 게임을 한다 했는데 특히 이번 선수들은 제가 이제 지금 현재 팀의 분위기를 만드는 거에 중점을 두고 있는 것 중에 한 개가 그 전에는 친구들끼리 너무 젠틀하고 친절하다 보니까 약간 쓴소리를 해야 될 때 선수들끼리 서로 그럴 때 약간 그런 게 분위기상 잘 안 됐던 것 같아요. 근데 이제 제가 원하는 거는 연습 중이나 특히 연습 중일 때 분명히 선수들끼리도 이런 서로 실력 향상을 위해서 뭔가 조언을 해주거나 도와주는 역할이 되게 중요하다고 생각을 하거든요. 그래서 이제 그런 분위기를 만들어가는 거를 가장 중점적으로 두고 있습니다.
And then was
Right. So listen, I'll lead you guys off with this. I have definitely seen the quality of play in NA Overwatch increase drastically with the inclusion of Korean coaching staff, namely the San Francisco Shock. When Krusty came on board with that team, you know, he brought a lot of structure to that roster, and the players were coachable enough, to be honest, that he really turned that team around. I would argue what Autumn is talking about there are things that I would have expected James IRL to have instituted. I actually think he's probably one of the foremost. He was, in my opinion, one of the foremost sort of coaches in NA in terms of like setting structure, setting expectations, and behavioral sort of management. Yeah. When I interviewed him, I was blown away by just how insightful he was in terms of the psyche side of esports. But you can expect this team to become more and more structured and maybe allow those sort of uncut diamonds to shine through a bit more.
I mean, it makes sense. We think about the brute force way of doing things. I mean, we would take a look at how TSM goes about things. Sentinels, I mean, is not always a hit because we saw what happened when Tim's was on the roster, right? When those skills don't come through, things fail. We saw 100 Thieves win First Strike being extremely strategic. We saw instances of that in Pop Flash with a lot of other teams as well, Gen G. I think that this route is going to be the best. And the fact that Cloud9 are utilizing all their resources, I don't know if anyone else has been thinking this, but that just shows the level of growth that Valorant currently has, right? Because now we're bringing in all types of people from different regions just to NA for different types of help. When it comes to strategy for this roster, best way to go. Best way to go. Like I said, the first time we saw Sunny on this roster, Leaf and everyone else just felt just way too comfortable. So the insight that he's going to bring to this roster from on the coaching staff, Cloud9 is definitely going to be on the way up. I don't think Cloud9 White is going to be the best team on that roster anymore.
Well, I mean, we're definitely bullish on Cloud9 going forward. So let's just see, because I mean, we've been hurt before many times before.
They played Vision Strikers so many times in Korea. They could bring a lot of that experience over to NA. So
yeah, I mean, how much experience?
But we don't know.
How does getting trounced by a team that has incredibly good strategic oversight and utility usage make you better necessarily? Like, you have to really understand what they're doing, I think, to be able to utilize it. I mean, Autumn probably understands. You guys could probably communicate your utility a bit better, but every team in A understands that except for fucking FaZe Clan. So it's not as if this is not revelationary. You know, there's no wheel being reinvented about how to play Valorant right now, you know.
That's true. That's true.
Getting pooped on by Vision Strikers a bunch of times. I mean, there's a little bit more than that to improve. You know? You have to lose well. You have to be able to actually take teachable moments away from a trouncing like we've seen Vision Strikers hand out so many times.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about the game. Moving on here, because obviously we had a patch drop today, but before we get to that, we talk about the Ask Valorant sort of communique, which I really quite enjoy. We get like some Q&A a little bit. We're talking, obviously, they mentioned that in patch 2.02 there was running accuracy change, and this conversation again about rank and how ranking up works is still ongoing. And both of those I feel like were addressed in today's patch.
Definitely. I think the biggest one for the wait times, I read it quickly this morning. It was how now the ones that were really high elo in Radiant that almost had to wait an hour still, they're able to bring it down to about 10 to 15 minutes. And I think another cool thing about the leaderboard too is the fact that now the duo queues extends over to Diamond 3, which means that Riot doesn't want people to 5-stack to get into the Immortals leaderboard. So that's also going to even things up, I think. Remember when the pros were saying, man, you're playing with players that are high elo and NMR when you were placed into Plat 3. It was harder for you to get into Radiant because you had other people that were playing into lower. And these guys are just 5-stacking versus lower MMR pretty much at that point to get into Immortals, which was going to make it more difficult for Radiant players or the regular Radiant players, or the natural ones that we think are going to move forward to get into the top 500. And when you're looking at today, though, if you're looking at the leaderboard on February 2nd in 2021, it's starting to even out. I think they're doing a good job with this so far. And I think by making it Diamond 3-2 is a great way to continue into like flattening that bell curve finally and seeing that, you know, the good players are supposed to be on top.
Are you implying that there's a bell curve in Valorant in terms of like, does it match like human IQ?
Yeah, definitely, man. If you are dumb, you are in. I'm not gonna say like what rank you should be. but
Yes.
like, if you don't
Same,
have
man.
that game sense or
Tell
something like
that-
that, right? I think that
Okay.
should be included into the.
Tell that to FaZe Clan. Tell that to
Yes.
FaZe Clan. Tell that to FaZe Clan, Vansili.
This is gonna go on all day, by the way. So
Oh my God.
Hey, I know them. I know them well. I am like a stern but usually fair father to a lot of those boys on that particular roster. They have earned my ire this week, and I will bring it to bear. Okay, so obviously, yeah, they want Diamond 3 to be kind of like a proving ground. So think about it this way, right? It's like before you challenge the Elite Four, you have to go through Victory Road, right? This really annoying, cavernous, multi-level dungeon where like Rhydon keeps spawning and attacking you, and Golbat where you can't escape from it. Just like really annoying ace trainers that you have to fight all the time, and you have to use strength to move some fucking rocks around, and eventually you get to the Elite Four where you can actually buy full restores at the potion shop, you know? Unfortunately, we don't restrict skins from people below Immortal Plus, but it gives players at least some sort of like idea of like, hey, there's no 5-stacking anymore. I wonder if there's like another reason for that, if they want to make sure that, you know, in that high diamond, there isn't just a bunch of like 5-stacking and like a bunch of stagnation occurring at Diamond 3. I'm not really sure. Either way, it seems like a fair change. They want to sort of say, hey, this is what you should expect, but I don't really know functionally why that's so important, because I think you kind of know when you get to Immortal. It's like no player gets to Immortal. It's like, oh my God, I can't 5-stack anymore. I'm fucking uninstalling the game. You know? You know what you're getting into. So I wonder if there's another reason behind this. Obviously, they mentioned that about rank convergence, which is one of the main issue that like, you know, artists had, I think, last week in sort of the threads, you know, with Evermore. They're basically making it now so you get quicker to your true rank. The wording is, if you perform better than your average, you get now an extra ranked rating bonus. But it's not performing better than your peers or other players in the certain game. It's performing better than your average. So there might still be a perception problem with that, where players feel like they're not ranking up high enough compared to their performance, you know, against the other people in the game.
Yeah,
Don't
So we'll
lose.
see.
yeah. I think that brings that topic to where they were saying like they want to reward players from Iron to Diamond for players that could quote unquote pop off in the game. So performing above expectations, you can maybe get a little bit more elo or stuff like that too, and the MMR. But I'm afraid about that one, man. This is a double-edged sword for me. I think for a lot of Twitter, from what I've been reading from, you know, tweets, pros, and even playing it myself, the amount of people that insta lock into duelists and then just bottom frag, and then now that you're rewarding a potential to pop off to get more MR, now you're gonna get even more fucking insta locking into this game of duelists and stuff like that too. And what about players like me that are like an Omen main or a Sage main or Breach or Killjoy?
Don't you play KJ?
Yeah, I play Killjoy as well. And there's some games where I'm not going to be able to perform into high numbers because I'm more of like that anchor support player. So I know that there's like I was going to check it, but I didn't have a chance.
You know, anchor as in you drag the ship down?
Sorry? I'm not dragging the shit down.
You dragged,
a win's a fucking win, Mitch. A win's a fucking win. We're going to talk about the score where you say it doesn't matter if you're at the bottom of the scoreboard. If you did your job, the team fucking wins.
You don't say that when I play with you, Vansili.
Yeah, but that's a different story, Belly. That's like,
now, bro?
we're talking about consistency at the bottom is a different story.
It's all zen now.
Pop off, okay? No.
All that to say, that because I know that when you're looking at the game summaries into the matches that you play currently in Valorant, isn't there a section that shows like how many abilities you've used and how much damage you've done in that and stuff like that too? But it's always at 000. I think that maybe could be like an implementation of something later. I think it should maybe add on to that in terms of like, hey, if you are going to be a support player, how much damage are you doing with your nanostorms? How many people are you near stunning with your paranoia? Like adding that kind of stuff into the assists, not necessarily just the assist column, but because you could definitely do some paranoia. Get some people blind.
Utility effectiveness.
Exactly. To add into the MMR, I think that could maybe help instead of just promoting and always giving a better chance for insta-lock duelists to go up faster than you in your ranks.
This is just, I mean, it's difficult because obviously there are a lot of intangibles associated with the impact of utility.
Yeah.
It's like back in COD 4 when I used to bottom frag every, like, you know, invite level game.
Yeah.
I owned the nickname Crucial Fragger. Because, you know, my idea was that I might not get many frags, but the ones I got were, you know, really impactful. right? They really turn the game on its head. But it's very hard to quantify the impact of a lot of that utility, right?
Yeah.
There are already built into the game like indicators of like how many people you displaced or blinded or whatever with these abilities. But how do you translate them, and how do you differentiate between a paranoid that just hits 5 people and you don't do anything with it, or a paranoid that completely stuffs a push and allows you to double swing?
Maybe
out?
like less points for the ones that you hit, the ones that you get assists. That's what I'm saying. You add a little bit more. But if not, if anything, it could even help for players that are trying to learn ranked to start using your utilities a little bit more too, right? When you're trying to teach the game for a newcomer trying to play Valorant, to actually promote the fact of using utilities could also help into like, okay, well, this cage here, that trip there, that kind of stuff. Like, use your utilities.
Wait, you use that accent again?
I'm not going to be as close to it. I'm not going to be as close to it.
No, utility effectiveness could definitely be a thing. I mean, Mitch, you come from Overwatch. I come from Rainbow Six. I get points, you get medals. But then this is a conversation where it's like it's all fantasy, because this is going to require a lot of work and coding. So is this even going to see the day of light? It's kind of like,
it's too subjective.
This is what we have to deal with. Yes. I mean, I'm okay with it, but it's just, you just gotta blame the shitters that insta-lock Reyna.
Okay, yeah, and that, I mean, continue to project our failures onto other people is how you, make it. And let's talk about the changes to running accuracy, because they were pretty significantly altered. Especially, I saw some stuff even on the weekend of VCT that just kind of blew my mind. Just like running Vandal headshots just completely blown my mind. But they vastly increased the error for, is it Bulldog? I think Spectre's in there as well. Vandal and Phantom.
Bulldog, Guardian, Vandal, Phantom.
Guardian, right.
So
all
4
rifles.
For to know.
Pretty
much all the ARs. Yeah.
Because obviously those weapons can give you the insta headshot kills. I think that's the problem. Obviously, outside of the Phantom, generally speaking, unless you're really up close. But they increase the. I mean, they use numbers. I mean, I could tell you they increased the running error from 0.38 to 0.5. I don't even think that would tell you anything. Is that the issue? Does this fix make a big difference? Will it stop the complaints now from a lot of people about this running accuracy? Because
it should. Okay. It should. Well, you take the running error. Like, I'm terrible at math. We've heard Van Silly tried to math live on broadcast. That didn't turn out
all the time.
That didn't turn out well at all.
Right?
I
may be the only one qualified here to do math.
Oh my god.
But by the way numbers work, if the running error across all rifles was at a 3.7 and they made it a 5, think about just double that. I mean, with that being said, I think this should fix it. Now the classic
50% increase.
Yeah. So it's just like, okay, I'm with it. Hopefully it works. I kind of wish they put a video in the blog, kind of like what they did when the game first came out, with like a clip to show an example so we can see it better. But my people at Riot were slacking. Right.
Ryan Central or something is going to do it too. But definitely, I think. Okay, so there's 2 things. The first off is I think they did a great job starting with the ARs. But you're still forgetting the stingers. You're still forgetting the frenzy. But there's 2 takes on that too.
But that's different though.
What do you mean it's different?
I mean, the frenzy is pretty nuts.
Oh, we get in this debate. I know where this is going.
Kill someone across the map, basically on the move with the frenzy on Icebox, Guild vs Liquid series, I think, and I was just like, what the fuck?
And people prefer using Stingers to Spectres now. Like, it fucking melts faces at mid-range if you're aiming it right?
I think the problem is that they're strong, but the accuracy shouldn't be a thing, because when you compare SMGs to rifles, when we talk about balancing like that, you don't want the SMGs to be so weak that it's just like they just don't compete. I just feel like if we take down the damage, then that's fine. That's my take. That's my personal take.
But do you know how fast you unload a clip of a Stinger? That thing,
the rate of fire is high.
Yeah, like so if you're gonna lower the damage, I don't think it's gonna be picked as much. I mean, we could theory craft about that, but I do think that there still needs to be changes to the frenzy and to the Stinger. And I also think that the community here in Valorant, like, we should be happy with what we have so far with the main 4 guns for now. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more changes for tweaking with these weapons. I mean, just look at the latest example of when they talked about with Ryan Central about the new skins that were coming out, right? The Glitch Pop 2.0, which probably we're all going to fucking buy here.
Hell yeah, dude.
But
I don't have time to play the game right now, so buy the damn skins.
And you're still gonna buy it.
I'm buying it, yeah.
So that's the thing. So when they came out with the release of that and the interview from Riot that came out too, they were saying, look, we already had plans in the past to already have a glitch 2.0, but it was going to take some time. It takes some time to do these things, to do these things, sorry, and get the right designs to get the guns out. I think it's the same thing where they approached it with the running and gunning. They're like, we know that it's an issue right now. We might not be able to address it all at once. They've mentioned that too, and at least this is a start. And it's hard for us to just tell Riot that we want everything right away. I come from Counter-Strike where when you first started, you had running Glocks, and when you had 5 fucking terrorists running up the A ramp, and then you had the whole chat going Glocks with GLAWKS, right? Like that was a problem. Running Tech 9s was a problem. CZ long range was a problem. The AUG in a Krieg was the longest problem. The AWP movement was a problem, and that was all addressed through different patches, through different iterations, where you can't do everything at once, because if you do everything at once, there's a potential that you're breaking the whole game at the same time too, because now you don't really know what's really balanced or not. So take your time with that, community. Don't bring out your pitchforks yet. Be happy with what we have so far. I'm sure we're going to have the other changes.
Good guy, Van Silly, just holding the masses back from the brink. Like, don't worry, Riot.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
like,
save
stay
you.
back, guys. I'm here.
It's like when Hodor gets dragged down in Game of Thrones, right? That's Van Silly right now. And everyone just crawling over the top of him, just
holding that fucking door, bro. I'm not trying to lose weight
anymore.
anymore.
God. Hey, let's move on, because we got actually someone interesting to talk to instead of us 3 papagas just with bad takes. Let's bring him in. I want to take a moment here to welcome to the show James Banks, who you may know as the general manager for Alliance, also Valorant commentator extraordinaire. James, great to have you with us, man.
What's up, James?
We've had a bit too much sugar this morning, but that's fine. Hopefully you'll be able to help us here. Maybe, we'll go back in more academic direction now with your inclusion, man. Obviously, you were involved with the Red Bull Homegrounds tournament over the weekend, which was a ton of fun because Europe finally got another big Valorant tournament, man. You know, and you were right in there, involved in the commentary. You were there with Mitch, man. Of course, Pansy was also involved. It was a ton of fun. And we got to see again some of those European rosters back on show again, some of the top teams.
Yeah, do you know what? You've touched on a good point there. It's finally getting good event for EU, because we seem to just be not able to get good events to run up from start to finish, right? So this was the real test for a lot of these teams coming off the back of the break and everything going into it. It was an interesting format, but I actually like the format in giving us a potential for more decent matches, because you look at the 2 big matches, right? You look at the Summon FC versus Liquid, and you look at the Liquid versus G2 final. It went all 5 maps, and it showed us that, like, okay, the competition is still hot, and Liquid, they are at least dealing with some of their problems they were facing towards the end of the year.
I feel like the format, like, yes, there was potential for some blowouts, but I feel like the format, you know, the home maps being won, like, you kind of knew the series was going to be one-sided if both home maps were won by, you know, a particular team anyway. James, did you have any sort of expectations for, you know, huge expectations for any of these teams coming into the tournament? Like, when you look at the bracket as someone who's getting ready to cast this, what are the storylines you're already developing before the first shot is fired?
First thing for me, and me and Mitch have been very critical on NIP, is this going to be a NIP that just flops again, or are they going to show us something that we can get excited about and hope for? Because that NIP roster, they have been, and you guys probably talked about it to death as well, they have been so mismanaged or just misworked, because they had potential and so many great players, but they could never hit the mark. We see Existence come in, and you're going to get excited about that if you know him from Counter-Strike, and everyone looks at the stats and they're like, who's this guy? It's the Aku Hoss name. I've asked him to try explain it. He said he's going to do it on an interview some point. Doesn't make any sense. Legend changed his name, but I'll let him have it. You know, why not? But he was a player that we expected to come in and be able to really change and mold this NIP. And then you look at what he brought. He was setting up his team from start to finish. He actually made us excited for NIP. And I said, I think I tweeted that this is the best NIP we have seen in Valorant, because all the other ones were always missing something or not able to hit the mark. Okay, they didn't manage to do it massively well, right? But they show us signs that if you give them some more time, they've got individuals on there. Like the young 17-year-old Russian guy, JD, he is incredible. Like, he's playing a Sage, the Battle Sage, and then he's playing a Sova as well. But I think, like, you could just put him on any agent. This guy has got raw mechanical skills, and giving us someone like a leader like Existence, and this is what people, I guess, casual viewers may not see it as much, but the setting up that Existence does for his team on the breach was like second to none. He was making sure people were in the right spot.
Yeah, I do remember the matchup. I think it was versus Liquid, because I watched it yesterday with a couple of people from Sliggy's chat too, and it was on Icebox. And the way that Existence just basically sets up the breach and like stuns on the left side, so they take the A site. The way that they push into the site too, they like try to they wall and they fight the site. Where, for example, in an A, you wall for the A plant and then you run away instead. NIP looked very good to just move forward and fight. But for me, it's, you mentioned JD at this point here, Banks.
Yeah.
A 17-year-old player, like, where does he come from? Does he come from CS, or like, is this going to be like his first game being pro, kind of like the Asuna and the Dicey going into 100 Thieves?
So he's like one of those players that didn't do anything big in CS, right? He obviously played CS, but never had any success on a professional level. We started to learn about him literally because he got picked up by NIP, and that's it. Like, you start to ask the question about what's going on. And he just seems like one of these guys that is rawly adapted and someone you can mold, you know? Like, I can see him really just feeling out Valorant in every single way. And that's what got me excited, because he isn't a player who was just hunting for kills and getting super aggro. He was waiting. He was being patient. He was playing off his teammates. And you guys know, you don't get many 17-year-olds that do that, right? They come into this and they got a point to prove, and they're like, yeah, let's kill everything. Blah. And then it's like, wait a second, put a leash back on him, bring him back.
Yeah.
But
and sorry, it was against
potential.
G2, the match that was
Yes,
mentioning about.
so G2 was the one that they was Icebox, and it was the only one they won, right? It's the only one they managed to get off them.
Yeah. I mean, and that was pretty. I mean, that was. I think it was NIP. No, NIP beat G2 on Split.
Oh, there was
right?
a 13-5 on Split, wasn't it? The dominant one. Yes.
That was Rhyme on the Raze, I feel like, just kind of dumpstering. But, you know,
really
I find this so interesting. Existence just plays Breach. Just Breach. Yeah. Like, in NA especially, we see, like, the Breach player also playing a bunch of Sova, playing a bunch of, other utility characters like Sky and such like that. But I find it so fascinating. He is locked into that role, and there aren't too many teams that just have a... I mean, okay, maybe outside of Sentinels that really just have like someone who looks the best on Breach, maybe C9 to a degree.
Yeah.
How much of Existence's pedigree do you think translates in NIP's player right now? Can we see flashes of that brilliance, that tactical mind at work yet? Or will it take time for that to get fleshed out as the whole team applies, strategy?
I think the reason we got excited is because we start to see it. It's also the fact that the individuals are let loose. So to give you the breakdown of NIP, they basically lost their IGL in Fear-Off. Then they just placed Rhyme as an IGL who wasn't really a natural IGL. And he then dropped off in the fragging department. Now you see Existence come in. He has structure. And if you know him from the French scene, all he ever did was he was maybe almost sometimes too structured. But you expect him to now be on that Breach role because he was an Omen player before and he was real creative with his Omen. But you're never going to take Kriya off that Omen. We talked about in Europe, Kriya was the one kind of setting the pace for how Omen should play and looking at how you can kind of surprise, like smoking, then teleporting into the smoke, which is
TP
normal
offensive,
now. Yeah, and now we see it where, okay, he's just taking a step back. He will play any agent. He will be sacrificial. But even then, he's got so much good players backing him up. And for me, if you want to see this NIP lineup have success, it's just Rhyme and JD now being unleashed, able to do all this damage together because they were the two stars. And I think they were in the top 10 overall on stats, even though they got eliminated when they did, like that on its own is impressive because they didn't play as many games, didn't play as many rounds, okay, but they actually showed up on the big games. And that split game that was versus G2, I know from seeing the practice games of what G2 has been offering, they've been trying to pick into it. They've been trying to make it like a real big map for them. And people are like, oh, well, it's G2 having an off day. But I would highly doubt that at this point. I think that you give it some time. Yeah, this is a NIP magic moment coming back, but we're doing it in Valorant.
I love the NIP magic.
What have we... Okay, so let's now move on. We talked a bunch about NIP, and I think everyone's excited because the brand is so sort of famous. But what can you tell us about Guild? Because finally we get to see Safe and Yassine sort of, in that roster together. And, expectations, I think, are starting to get higher for Guild, but they fall short again pretty early on, James.
This was it, right? I think you summed it up perfectly. You get excited about this roster, but something is still missing. Like Safe, for example, he was supposed to be this one that's going to be the next like big solo player as well, like the individual that you can always rely on. We saw maybe a couple of glimpses of that. Yassine still does what he does, but I think it's tactically where Guild are a little bit flawed because I actually thought you're all Swedish players, including a Swedish coach. Like communication is going to be on point. This is going to look really good for them, but they still make some real basic mistakes here. Like, okay, this is a Liquid that I would say is a really good looking Liquid. Scream now being on the jet the whole time. We've seen them kind of I'd say, find what we expect them to find maybe a bit earlier. But Guild didn't even really put up a bigger fight than I expected. I wanted this to go the distance, and I feel left with that feeling that this is still not the final version of Guild, but then what is? Because who else is going to come in? Like Draken with his pedigree in Counter-Strike, I expect him to be fragging out a little bit more. I expect him to be taking more risks, but it's almost like they play too scared. And that's the team that shouldn't be playing too scared. They're also one of the teams that's got like the best back end, huge salaries alongside it as well.
Yes.
They should be in a position, right, where they're coming in super confident like they did at the beginning, and instead they're the one I see like running away from fights, and that can't be happening. In Valorant as well, you have to stick the fight you're taking. It's not like Counter-Strike where you can kind of jiggle your way out of it at times. Normally, when you're committing to a spray down or a fight in Valorant, you're stuck in. You got to take that fight. So if you're scared, well, obviously you're going to lose. Confidence is more than huge in Valorant compared to Counter-Strike.
So I have a question for you, Banks, when it comes to Guild. First off, Banks, it's good to talk to you again, baby. I
know,
you.
Man.
All right. But funny story. When I first met Banks, I didn't know how big of a human he was. He's ridiculous, right? But
it's a fucking fridge.
No, it's ridiculous, right? He could break me in half like a stick.
I'm only gonna hug you.
We say they're built like a brick shithouse.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Right. So, all right, when it comes to Guild, and I'm happy you said it. You said that this team, essentially, they don't have the aggression that they need to just make the plays for themselves. And you've seen, he was a duelist. We saw him on Raze. I think it was Ascent, and then Icebox was definitely Jet. And stats don't mean everything, but sometimes they do. And my man's was slacking. And when you go against a team like Liquid, you need that type of aggression, confidence, that swagger, that cockiness to go against the likes of, a Scream or even a Link, right? And they didn't have that. Do you think Duelist is a problem on that Guild roster that they need to look at?
Why isn't Safe playing Duelist?
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I was about to say. Like,
Wait,
Safe should be the one on a Duelist.
Yeah.
100%.
Safe's playing Sentinel. Teams have this annoying tendency of bringing a new player in and putting them in Killjoy Cypher prison for like 3 weeks before they allow. Look at fucking T1. Look at Brax now finally getting to play the Jet. I mean, it happens, bro. Like everyone's super excited about Safe, and then he's on Sentinel. I don't get this.
I think like everyone wants to be a duelist, right? In a way, like, they want to have that star player, and they understand that might get more attention or whatever. And you seem certainly capable of it. But like, if I'm looking at this team and say I was in charge of it, I would be saying, okay, let's look at who is the young star that's up and coming, even if he doesn't have like that shining star moment right now. Then you put all your eggs on him, right? You put him in a position to feel that comfortable and that confident, and then it's no problem with your scene being the secondary. Like you can just let that go, right? And he mechanically, you would say Yassine is more gifted, but Safe has a higher skill ceiling as what I'd look at on an eye test from these guys. And the thing is, normally when you look at this lineup, you say, okay, they come close, but like it wasn't fair to them, right? They had a bad turn or something like that. It didn't look good. And that's my biggest worry. Like, I wasn't impressed. I wasn't blown away. I expected this to be the 5 mapper. And I would obviously look at what happens when it comes to VCT and how they do in these best of ones. Because if they get upset there again, then I don't know. Lord help you. Like,
sure.
I don't think the road is ending for that roster. I just think that the coach needs to just change around positions. That's ultimately it.
I mean, you could be a star player without.
Scream had a field day because he had no answer. You saw that ace he had? Like, come on, man.
I'm just saying, you can be a star player without playing a duelist. It's being discussed in chat. I think like Proto's a great example because he just like literally laid a steaming shit on FaZe or whoever he was playing
he
against.
Destroyed
guys like Steel and stuff are able to do that as well. So
yeah,
you don't have to just because you have knives and dashes and it's not going to make you a star player.
Still pretty hot ace though. It was a hot ace following like a 4K from Artists. It was like on Icebox too. So it was
we thought that was it. We were covering that.
Sick.
We thought it was game over, and then all of a sudden it was like, what did Scream do? And by the way, I'm going to say this again because not enough people heard this. Is Scream right now is the best player individually in Valorant. I don't give a damn. I'm gonna sit there and say it with my chest.
I'm gonna take that.
I'm gonna sit there with my chest.
Wait, can we talk about Liquid and G2, bitch? Please.
We can in a second.
You can't be summoned. You can't be summoned here, Belly. Come on.
This is kind of juicy. There's a bit of something here as well because first of all we get I love this. I love it when tournament organizers announce, like, you know, like they invite teams and they leave a spot open, like a special guest team.
Yeah,
And then they fucking insert the team that they're sponsoring into the event that hasn't necessarily, you know, earned the right to be a stand amongst those top teams. And then you get fucking monkey business. Oh, yes. 3 players that I'm familiar with from Overwatch. Obviously 2 Frenchies and a Swedish bloke, and they go up against Summit FC, and the results are not pretty, Vansili.
Yeah, it didn't look too good at all. But I think at the same time, I wanted to bring that over to you, Banks. It's like looking at monkey business. Like for me, it's like who are these people? Same thing as Frenzy Go Kill. There were rumors that these guys could probably get picked up too. What's your take on how monkey business looked versus Summit FC? I think for Summit FC, for me, this was like an easy run for them for the quarterfinals. I think all the quarterfinals are pretty one-sided, but we finally see Summit FC do better versus Liquid later on. But first thoughts on monkey business.
So this monkey business, right? They're supposed to be going to OG if the reports are there, right? And it's obviously Red Bull OG. So cool, you got the spot, right? For whatever reason. AKM, I don't know him, Uber. You say, has he come from Overwatch?
Yeah.
Okay, so this,
Can I be honest with you? Like,
this idiot, this idiot comes out here and says that Scream is all aim, no brain, and then gets rolled on from the very start. Like, has an absolute terrible performance. I'm all up for big talk. I'm all up for big chat, but you at least got to back it up because you got made to look a fool.
I mean,
I
you know what's ironic about this?
I take it.
I still think that's
about
great.
This. Get in his head.
AKM did in Overwatch. That is what he did in Overwatch. He was all aim, no brain, bro. He's down in the Korean just trying to left quick people down. Like, let's be honest. I spent a lot of time with AKM personally. Not a fucking intellectual. Let me just put that out there. That's not him. He's full of, you know, he's full of machismo and bravado, but I would not say he's out there reading fucking Tolstoy in the background while the rest of his team's, you know, screaming. So interesting that he makes that statement. Also, since the Overwatch League was inaugurated, AKM never had great success. Sorry, nor did Unco, nor did Tvig. All of these players were, I would say, failed prospects in the Overwatch League. Now, in Overwatch before that, they were fine. They were on top teams. Team Rogue was one of the best teams before the Overwatch League. But when the competition started to get real, none of those players, and you could argue it's because of misfortune in some cases, none of those players reached high heights. They are definitely hoping to try and revitalize their career in Valorant, but don't get it twisted. These guys were not superstars in the Overwatch League, not even close. Maybe Unco was the closest. He was a fantastic flex support player. Yeah. And Tvik had some moments, but Tvik was on an awful team with awful communication. They're all fucking Swedish, but somehow they couldn't, you know, get a play going, you know, to save their lives. He never achieved greatness. He was on a laughingstock team, the Florida Mayhem, that just got pounded until they filled the whole roster with Koreans, and now they're starting to.
So weren't Sinatra's.
No, I mean, I don't think that they were these players were necessarily all that coachable either. Like that, you know. I never saw anything that really excited me from these players, with the exception of Unco, because he individually is incredibly mechanically skilled. But these 3 have played on a team before, and they had success on Team Rogue. It's a different game.
So they should even have synergy
landscape.
then. If you're telling me 3 of them played together, you should have some sort of synergy as well.
Yeah.
Okay. You could argue that. It's the same as saying FaZe Clan should be good at using utility because Overwatch is all about abilities, but they fucking aren't. You know what I mean? Like FaZe Clan is like 4 players who want to be superstars. You know?
Man.
I mean, like, so I'm sorry. I also heard, by the way, that this monkey business roster were passed over by other tier 2 orgs before
tier 2
OG
orgs?
got in. Yes, yeah. So
what's OG
I need to see a lot
then?
more from them. I need to see a lot more from them right now. I think, Banks, you weren't impressed, and I don't know what we're supposed to see from this roster.
How did it show up on OG's lap, though, for
People
a potential pickup then?
You know, it's one of these probably Chinese whisper things, right? Where they're like, "Oh yeah, he's good. He's good."
AKM. AKM was a Red Bull sponsored esports athlete in Overwatch. He was a Red Bull brand ambassador in Overwatch. That might have something to do with it. And he actually functioned really well in that role because he was like this sick mechanical player. He got put on an Overwatch roster and was on the bench half the time. And then when he played, it was fucking Dallas Fuel. So he just pounded every time he got on stage. So his stock got tanked because of the way that he was managed in that roster. I think he had potential, but he never realized it.
I want to trash can a team on like a desk at a LAN one day with you, Mitch. Like just one day.
I'm gonna be that guy here again. Hold up, guys. Hold up, guys.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But at least Vansili standing in the breach trying to hold The
Vasily's eyes
sneagle's
are
back
like
from
this
taking
the whole
over his nice, flowery, very kind and polite analysis.
But yeah,
Okay, you know what?
All that to say, I mean, you're seeing in the end, like, okay, monkey business. They live up to their name. It's a monkey business from how they played in that tournament. So we could talk about Summon FC to continue on to that. I think they probably finally had the biggest challenge going versus Team Liquid in that semifinals, going all 5 maps, and at the same time, you kind of want to ask if Summon FC was like a fluke for them going into First Strike, kind of like Heretics, and then you see them in like in first and second into the finals. I think it was great to see this series versus Liquid versus Summon FC. It shows a lot of grit for Team Liquid as well, as to maybe people have been doubting them, towards the end of 2020. But I think this was a great series that Liquid took over versus Summon. But your take actually here, Banks, on Summon FC, are they kind of like that fluky kind of thing? Do they look more structured? Or definitely.
So I'm going to come out here, right? When I saw them at First Strike, I'm watching them closely thinking, what is going on with these guys? Because I knew tactically they had protocols, they had setups, right? Boast was putting all this time in. They were all motivated. There were some players that were kind of like the oddballs thrown together, you know, where they weren't always like first picks or anything like that. Some of these guys have hardly any competitive experience. Like I was at a LAN in 2009 with Chak where he won a CS Source event, for example, in the UK. And then I hadn't heard from him even in Go, like hadn't seen anything big from him. He comes into this, he's looking good. But their problem for me was like aim and mechanically, they weren't beautiful, right? They would be able to win off their good setups and their good protocols and what Boaster was bringing to the table and the preparation. Here, they actually look better. Yeah. So here they look better. Like they've actually refined things to the point there they could challenge Scream, you know? I saw Doma able to hit some mad shots. Chak was like hitting these flicks that he definitely, by the way, isn't cheating. But you know, when you look at it, you just go, what? Like, what is this? Like, it's just unacceptable. And the fact they can bring that level now to a team like Liquid on an individual level, I feel like when it comes to VCT, they're going to be having a field day as well. Like, I would definitely say it's not a fluke.
So,
James, I lost when I saw Doma 1v3 on split with the blast pack, like on the
mate,
the
I was, oh my god, I was just
he come in here like a jackrabbit and just rip new assholes into every one of his opponents. I could not believe
20
it.
health.
Yep.
So I have a question. Oh, Uber, were you not done? I'm sorry.
No, I'm done, bro. You go.
So this is a question, and you know, I'm gonna be completely honest. I haven't dived deep into Summon FC yet, right, Banks? But the 2 maps that they won, they had an interesting comp. And mostly I kept my eye on Jmoh a lot. Jmoh seems like their version of Sick. You see him on Viper, Reyna, Sova. But the 2 maps that they won, they didn't have a duelist. I mean, excuse me, they only had 1 duelist. Now, is that a type of comp that's going into their own specific meta that's helping them out in matches? Because, I mean, those look like some really good wins that they had on that. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, so when it comes to them, right, I look at them as a middle ground between your FPX and your Liquid. Because we know Sliggy, right, he wants to play around with the agent compositions and how that works for him and maybe throw a curveball out every now and again. And then FPX is really well drilled, right? They may stick with the pretty obvious agent compositions until Angel wants to throw a Viper in, which did shock the world at the first time. But then in general, like, he's more tactically facing, right? And he'll be the one to lead the charge. That's how I look at Summon, right? They're in the middle of these guys. So for them, I don't think like agent composition is a big problem unless they start overthinking it, you know? When people start to think too much, like if they take these losses against Liquid and how close it was in terms of maps, and they go, oh, maybe we should like now try and mix things up and throw, I don't know, we're going to start using Yoru on everything, for example, where he's definitely not viable on everything. And it's like, it's more how they're going to deal with the head game themselves. And people also got to remember, although they might be signed to someone, and we've heard all the rumors, they're still currently like, none of them are being paid to play, you know, they just come off that huge win. They're all just grinding. They're all super motivated. And when I go on my friends list, these guys are online all the time. They're always playing, like they're always putting the time in. So
good him flexing.
I see it as like, they just do a lot of server time. They do a lot of prep. And I just wish whoever's going to announce them, like, just hurry up and announce it now. If it's Fnatic, if it's XL, if it's Astralis, you know, I don't care. Just someone announce it. We need to give them a home because I feel bad for them. You know, like you're thinking, I hope someone's paying them a salary already. You know, I hope someone's already giving them a salary and waiting for the big announcement because I know their situation wasn't great before First Strike. So I hope as hell they're getting paid a lot of money right now because they deserve it.
Shouldn't it come now, man? It should come now that VCT is like literally around the fucking corner for Europe. It's a 2-day
boys, man.
Yeah. There's no way this team gets split up. Like
no, it's not happening.
Roster gets picked up.
I tried to get some of them. I tried to get some of them openly. It's not a joke.
That's it. Banks, esports heartbreaker, just trying to iconoclastically just break up this Summon FC roster, man. The
Let's
dream.
go.
Hey, I was throwing that cash around, man. It has to happen every now and again.
I mean, Veli, I'm gonna let
What's
you off the chain here because it's time to talk about our next matchup. Let's talk about G2. Let's talk about Team Liquid because that was obviously the highlight match of this event. It went all the way. It gave us everything we wanted. We got a lot of those single duelist compositions as well on Icebox. All right, we're seeing a lot of the sort of Sage and Viper play, which is fascinating. We can talk about that later. But I mean, that was so worth sitting down and watching. If you haven't seen the series, go see it. Zeke looks very good.
So good.
I've got to say.
Completely.
I'm sorry.
Completely.
Was that for me or Banks? I'm sorry. Like that
I didn't know
I
if it was
just
you,
yelled
Veli, so I
out.
just left the room, you know, because I end up talking too much. So you can take it.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. That's what you're
boy.
here for, Banks.
Right,
bro.
Banks. Listen, Banks. This is for you, okay? So when G2 made a team change, I was so worried about them because teams that don't know what a loss feels like, they take that shit hard. And yes, team changes do happen to these empires. They brought in Zeke immediately. I saw Zeke shutting down Scream. I saw Zeke being the rifleman that G2 needs, and him on Reyna was just beautiful. What do you think about this G2 compared to the last iteration that we saw? Because they look extremely explosive, and I love the freedom that they allow Zeke to have.
Yeah, so this is what's great. I'm a big Reyna fan, yeah, and I know in a lot of comps it doesn't work, but seeing Zeke do that, he just needs this confidence to be boosted because you saw him tweet out after some of the initial games. He's like, "Oh, bad going by me, but we won anyway." And it's like you're gonna have some games where you play bad, and I know when you're playing the Reyna, like you have to achieve, right? You have to hit shots because if you're not, you're basically useless. You just got a couple of layers and you can't work any huge advantage. But when he was popping off, he was doing massive work, and you got to remember. This is his first ever big tournament. He's never made it to a final before like this, you know. This pressure, this viewership, the people talking to him. And another thing, I had to tweet out to confirm about the IGL thing because he obviously was picked up in the idea of being an IGL, but like there was confusion. So I DM'd him. He's like, "Oh, I'm doing calling, but like it's still Mixwell's that captain." And then obviously all the Mixwell fans, because obviously there's so many of them, and they'll only ever take that Mixwell is the captain. That they won't deal with any logic in life. Everyone was losing their shit about it the whole time, and I'm like, oh god, why have I got to deal with this? So the idea is that they're still going to play this loose, free flow style that G2 have always known for. But if Zeke has a call or they have something they want to run, they're going to have it. They've got their defaults down. And then they're going to try and work the magic off their powerful numbers. And the thing is, they've got now 5 individuals who can always deliver. And like you were saying about Zeke, as an eye test on all this pressure on his shoulders, all these views, right? Stuff he's not used to at all. He's just been chilling, playing on an unsigned roster, having good success, right? Been able to achieve the basics, but going to a tier 1 organization like G2, all these tweets, all these mentions, that's a hell of a lot of pressure for a young guy. And like he delivered to a big standard. I love what we saw from him. And I think if we just grow his confidence, maybe their mental coach works with them or whatever, imagine what he can do. Like this G2 won't find the success of the opening G2 because I don't think anyone can. They were at the beginning of the game where like people were still finding their form. And I said about this G2, they can bleed, right? But that's going to be any team in this. We're not going to see them dominate and win every single tournament for sure because there's higher competition now, more players in the game. But this G2 is definitely a G2 that's top 2 in Europe minimum. And if they can keep this going, they can go back to that top performance for sure. But they can't expect it to be, oh, we win everything again, you know? They may want that. They may enjoy the memes and the social posts and stuff. But we are in a different stage to where Valorant is right now. And other teams have certainly caught up. But it's how far they can push this because the skill ceiling again on Zeke is so high. Like Mixwell went missing on that Ascent game for a while. And for some reason, I don't know what it is with Mixwell. He doesn't seem to do well on Ascent sometimes. Something just drops off for this guy. I don't know if it's just operator choice or like him mentally, he just doesn't like his position on the map. But like Zeke came into that. And okay, he hit 13 kills, but I told people on the desk the impact he had on that game, it was next level. Without that, I don't care if he had less kills. They would not have won that series.
That's what I was saying, man. It's not about the frags going into that too. And just talking about Zeke, it's like, yes, he may have tweeted out that he had a bad performance on Reyna, but I was watching his game on Icebox. It's like his play style or the way that they tried to enable him. He wasn't the type of player, that was going to try to end you really. Because there was a lot of times where G2 would be hitting towards the A site, but this man is like watching the flanks on A pushes and also flanking towards A at the same time. So he clears sites, he lurks, and when he sees that the site is clear, they go for the rotate back to A, and he even gets the kills on the rotation. He even gets double kills out of that one too. So I think when you're not watching these games and you're just looking through the scoreboard, it doesn't
Yeah.
say much about this player. As a core, I think G2 looks very, very good. And actually, I just wanted
Yeah.
to tie into what you're saying here, Banks. You say that now G2 is arguably like top 2 in Europe.
Yep.
I want to ask that question now, looking at the performance of Team Liquid, then, because for me, Team Liquid looked very, very good actually throughout this whole tournament. You know, they made it to the grand finals, but you're thinking at this point, if you're looking at the overarching ranking of EU, there's no FPX, there's no Heretics. How do they look versus G2, and how do you think they'll look versus FPX and? Sorry.
I was just going to add to that. When Liquid lost maps in that series against G2, they lost hard. Like, they get
Yeah,
three
they got
rounds
bullied.
behind,
13-5,
for Christ's
13
sake.
something.
Hard.
Yeah.
Like, they get twerked on hard when they lose, man.
Yeah, it was like a 13-5, 13 something else, like a 13-7 on Bind and Ascent, or I was Bind and Split, sorry. But they still had some very good results where they won. When they won like overtime 13-11. So there were still very close games versus G2. But overall, like I said, like how do you think they look now compared to last year, and how do you think they'll face versus like an FPX and a Heretics?
So I'm going to start with on this point on Liquid, right? That Soulcast had a tournament like no other. This is the best Soulcast we've seen.
Yep.
This kid was supposed to be being benched, right? So I DM'd him to get the truth of what this was, because I hate the rumor stuff. I had my roster leaked. Fuck these journalists, you know. I know they're just trying to do their job, but you're screwing me over on my call announcements and information finder. So I DM'd him.
Welcome to this side of the fence, my
I know.
guy.
It's not fun.
We don't like it.
Oh my god.
So I DM'd Soulcast, right? And I said, was the benching thing true or not? And he said there was a potential for the benching to be there. And then we decided against it when we came into the new year, and we went with what we had, right? I'm guessing that's maybe you didn't get the player you wanted, or you thought there was a way you can make it work. But whatever it did, that lit a fire under his ass. This kid came in and popped off. And what have we always looked at when you look at Scream? You saw Link sometimes pop up, Cryptic sometimes pop, but there was no consistency. Soulcast consistently was there with Scream. Scream, again, I'm going to say this, the best player in Valorant right now on an individual basis. You're just looking at one player. Now he's got someone like Soulcast to back him up. All you need is Cryptic's a Link to hit their shots occasionally and be there on time, and we're not going to have problems. So if I'm looking at the entire team, if you want me to give like a ranking or a rating, I would say Heretics first now, because obviously we haven't seen them. We don't know where they're going to be at. I'm going to keep them. I can't say no though, can I? They won main event. You can't be like, oh, we just disregard that because we're in a new year. They effectively are number one. Yeah. So then second, I'm going to put G2 in, and then third, I'll put FPX, and then fourth, I'll put Liquid, and fifth, I'll put Summon FC. The only reason I'm putting Summon FC down in fifth right now is because that game against Liquid, for me, they should have won. They should have had that early on in that series. It shouldn't have gone 5 maps. The fact they allowed Liquid to come back into it, and then you got someone like Scream just popping off, that shows the kind of troubles they can have with it. But I still think that Summon can easily come through and wreck any of them teams on any given day. But it's how, and again, I'm not in their comms, I don't know what they're talking about, but it's how they work when the chips are down, because there were so many of these games where it should have just been 100% Summon winning it, and Liquid just found their way.
Let me say this, like when I take a look at Liquid against G2, I mean, it was obvious that the mismatch was kind of there as well, right? Soulcast, he did have the tournament of his life, right, in Valorant, because of the fact that I think he just wanted to pop off because of Richard Lewis calling him out on Twitter. My man said, listen, I got something to prove. Okay?
Listen, I mean, Richard wasn't wrong. That was soft as piss.
Oh, it was soft. It was soft as hell. Yes.
I am glad that Soulcast left all the nonsense last year in last year. Because I was not pleased with what I saw. Especially as a commentator who tends to have opinions. I was fucking appalled at how that was dealt with.
Do you know what's worse about that, Mitch? Yeah. So Mitch is on the desk with Yinsu when that's going on. So my Mitch, and obviously not you. And no one touched him. No one said anything to him, right?
Not.
So you ain't gonna say shit to him. Why are you gonna say it to her? It's like someone coming. It's like someone coming to me, right? And they hate me and Mitch Caston, but they only say it to Mitch because he's short, and they don't say it to me because I'll break their fucking face. You know,
bang them the fuck out, James.
This is what people need to be realistic. People need to wake up to the facts of, like, if you're gonna say something, you can't ignore what the other person's saying. You can't just target one person that you think is a weaker individual, right, or an easier target, because someone's going to call you out and you're going to get slapped about.
Even Nazgul from Liquid apologized on behalf of his org, and he said, "Listen, you're a player, and you don't like what I have to say. Bad fucking luck, my guy. You're on that side. You earn more money if you win. All right, I don't give a fuck what's on the scoreboard. My job is to be a pundit." you don't like what I had to say, we can have a conversation about it. But you try and drag me through the mud, and I swear to God, I will never fucking let it go. And trust me, you won't come out on the right side of this because you have to focus on playing. I get to focus on talking about you. I'm already doing that, my guy.
First
You
off,
don't want that kind of narrative. Yo, shut up, put your fucking head down and play the game.
Yo, first
Exactly.
off, shout out to all the NA pros because yo, like me and other people, we pop off and we say some real shit. They don't complain at all. They don't complain. But SoCaz, you know what? I will say this: SoCaz had a fucking fantastic tournament. I remember his 1v2 on Haven where he clutched. One of them was Mixwell to get the defuse. He popped off.
Yeah.
But the question is, Banks, I like Liquid. I love Scream, but still, Scream still almost had 100. He almost had 200 kill series during that event.
I know.
2 of them, Banks. And then, so the thing is, with level of play that's high, if Scream isn't doing that still, and this is still
It's
a
a
legitimate
problem.
argument, is SoCaz and the rest of his team going to get those refracts, the trades that's needed, the rotations, and be consistently good? The fact that we're missing 2 major teams, I still, you know what? I don't want to take away this finals appearance away from Liquid, but there's still more that needs to be seen.
Oh, definitely. And I think what you're touching on there's 2 key parts to this, right? For me, I only wrote, and I'm not looking back at the stats, I'm just literally off memory, 1 bad game from SoulCast where he wasn't alongside Scream in the top part. So that, for me, shows consistency, at least across one event. Again, he has to do it coming into it. But also, Scream's way of playing Jet, more people need to pay attention to that. This guy will take a fight, if he doesn't land the first 2 shots with his insane headshot percentage, he was at 42% before going to the grand finals headshot percentage. What is that? That's insane. And then what he'll do, if he doesn't land the first 2 bullets, he just dashes out of there and then comes back into the fight.
Yep.
Like, people are too used to using it on the operator. Scream's way of using Jet is slowly going to become something that's like the norm or the best way to do things because he is showing a new way of getting it done. And I actually think we're in a point where potentially we don't need an operator player on a team at all.
No, it makes sense.
You don't need
makes sense. No. You're starting to see that towards NA, especially on the attacker side too, where people just don't want to go for the operator on the attacker side.
Too much risk.
And even now, slowly but surely, you're seeing like LG is the perfect example right now in NA, where they're not running operators on the defender side, and they've beaten Sentinels in a best out of 5, and they're still continuing to prove their worth right now during the VCT. So yeah, you're definitely right. I think I agree with that, Banks. And with that, that ties a note, at least for me, the loop with the Red Bull home ground. So I just wanted to ask maybe some tangent questions for you as well, Banks, because the first one being the format, right? The format for Red Bull events look really cool. Finally, we don't see any best out of 1s. Unfortunately, right now into the VCTs of Europe on Thursday, it's still a BO1 in the first round. So what the fuck is going on out there?
Come on, bro.
Yeah, I'm going to tie to 2 things. First off, what the fuck is going on out there with the format? What's the best format going forward? And when you're looking at NA, you see so many of these like Cloud9 invitationals, FaZe invitationals, T1 invitationals. I didn't see any like G2. Well, maybe G2 they kind of did, but it was like kind of puggy, where it wasn't really that like more show matching than anything else. So are we missing events right now in EU that allows showcasing of these top tier teams to play against each other? And what do you currently have that also could maybe, help the tier 2 teams and tier 3 teams grow and get known?
Okay, so let's start with this thing. First of all, Riot don't like me because they want to split me and Mitch up so I don't get high for VCT. So what this does allow me to do is make some more magic happen, right? So on top of this, from being here at the very beginning of Valorant, I was talking to EU orgs for a long time to get involved in teams. I was in Astralis' offices right here in Copenhagen because I'm here for Blast in Copenhagen, just sat in a hotel room at the moment. I went to Astralis' offices. I told them about all the stuff in Valorant. I said why it's a positive and like how they should look to get into it. I have been pushing so hard to try and get more teams picked up because you guys in NA, right? All the big names came, they dropped money, come spend, and they want to get involved. You're very, very lucky, right? And EU was suffering. Then we had things like I did the Razer Contenders Cup, and they came in and did one where it was open format, but even teams like FPX and Summon went in there and anyone could play against it. So I'm right now, so if there's any sponsors, anyone want to come hit me up, I am trying to arrange something where we have at least a monthly or bi-weekly cup where we just have it open format. I just need a couple of €1,000 to be thrown at it, right? And we'll have it open for anyone to enter because we've got so much talent. When I built, have I got time to just go on this?
Cool.
It's your show, man. It's your segment.
You do.
Exactly.
When I built Alliance, right, I had money and I could have bought all named players or a whole team or whatever. And I actually took the process of saying, I'm going to open trial everyone. Now, it took a lot of time, but there's so many skilled players. You look at that JD guy who's now on NIP, for example, right? There's a player called Dark Zone as well, who's never played a pro game in his career, and he's got 3 Radiant accounts right now, and actually individually is very good. There is so much talent coming up. A lot of these guys have nothing to play for. Like, they're literally maybe just streaming, playing a bit with friends and stuff, and they're suffering. We're in a position in EU where I feel like we need to be able to showcase more of the talent, because it's not just all these ex-CS guys. Like, my roster has a couple of very well-known experienced players and a couple of players who don't have any experience on this level, because there are people that I've seen ability and skill within that you can work with. And if people wanted to, I can give a list of, I've trialed over 100 players. I can give you a list of players of all the positives and the pros and cons of it, because I believe there is so much more talent and depth within Europe than we're actually currently seeing, because it's not just these people that come from other games. Yeah, we need some sort of structure added to it, because NA has so many different things, like Nerd Street Gamers, right? Vancilli, we work with them. They're doing amazing things. There's so many opportunities for people to play, and it's not just the big teams in there. I'm desperate in Europe, and I will help run it. I will do anything. I'll fucking commentate the game for free if we can just put something on.
Don't do that. That happens enough in NA. Don't do that.
James, it happens here. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. No, but I mean, if it's a cup, right, and it's not like a big official thing, if it's helping the scene, I don't care right now, because we need this. Like, we need to show that there's so much more here and available than just what we've got at the moment. And I'm running out of ideas. I've been shouting and screaming about it long enough, and we just need something where these lower down teams have something to aim for. You know, these up and coming teams do. We need more of these cups. We've got this Pro League thing, which has obviously had its drama. You guys maybe even covered it with the whole Bucky banning and stuff. But like, we need something that's a clear step up. And I know like challenges are supposed to be that, but again, if a team of 5 friends who are semi good at the game enter in, right, say they're all like Immortal 3 Radiant players, and they just get rolled on the best of 1 every single time, they're not really learning anything from that. They can review the game, they can look back at it a little bit and go, oh, we did this mistake. But what are they doing the rest of the weeks, the months, and stuff like that? There's so much missing in Europe, and it's killing me, man. Because I just want to see that next level. I want to see more of these tier 3, tier 2 teams be able to rise up and actually have some kind of growth path. And I know it's really early, but it's just like, I see it,
but it's booming,
and I don't know why it's not there.
Booming.
Yeah, we need it now when it's at its best, right? When most players are coming in, people are playing non-stop, streaming non-stop. So
it's
just hopeful.
Yeah,
and I also think it's better to do it now. Sorry, Veli, just real quick to add on to that. I think it's better to do it now than to wait that 2 to 5 years where potentially this game is going to be franchised. And once it gets franchised, that's going to close the doors for those that were trying to compete and trying to get up there, right? So I think it's, exactly a small bye-bye to them.
I want to tack on to that.
Go ahead.
So the issue almost sounds like there's like a lack of tournament organizers that are willing to run stuff in Europe, right?
Yes.
There used to be tournament organizers willing to run stuff in Europe. I mean, look at what ESL did for League of Legends. Look at what MLG did for League of Legends.
What's going on with
that? And then Riot took all of their fucking esports in-house. So all of a sudden, now ESL, what are they doing? Like they did no fucking League of Legends after Riot took it in-house. They did go for LOL Cups on the weekend. I know because I fucking cast them for 2 years, mate. For like, I don't know, like some RP and some fucking skins. So now, what? Like, and I know Riot want this as well. What you want, Riot want as well. They want people for Valorant to run tournaments for them. They do RFPs to all these orgs. Not many people buy it because they got fucking burned in the past. Do you think Esports Engine is in a hurry to run Valorant events after MLG got cucked by Riot running League of Legends when they took it in-house and said, fuck you, you're not involved in running any of these tournaments anymore. It's all us, it's all franchises, all in-house. And you know, all of these companies, these esports tournament organizers, they said, oh, go fucking try, go run water tanks tournaments instead. You know what I mean? Fuck you. So sorry, you can't have it both ways. You can't be Riot and make it very, very hard for tournament organizers to exist because you take everything in-house and then turn around in Valorant and be like, oh, where'd those TOs go? We kind of need you guys now. You can't have your cake and eat it too, motherfuckers. Choose.
So that's great because I never come from the League of Legends bit, so I never knew that on how it works. But like, maybe that makes sense why ESL never ran an Ignition Series event, for example, right?
Oh yeah.
In Europe, right? And this is no shade on the European Ignition Series people that ran it. Like, we play on Blast, they ran the best ones by far. We had talent rotations, we had good production and stuff. But like, everyone else was either hindered by budget or like a new tournament organizer, to the point that it was me and Mitch, and we were commentator, host, analyst, and interviewer. Like, I remember days where we were just on broadcast for 10 hours with like a 30-minute break, and like, we had to do it. And they were like, well, if we pay your rates, we cannot hire other people. And I'm like,
Oh, mate.
what do you mean? Like, where's what? And they're like, oh, we're brand new. And I'm like,
Don't worry.
like, what is this?
We are going to
we
get
got that
into
here.
this.
We got
I'm
that.
going to rip into some ass later on
We
the
got
show.
that here.
Just about that.
Banks, you want to hang around for that?
Oh, no, I
mean-
can hang. I'm chilling.
Oh, look, my guy Banks has
Banks
fucking
is an
been
OG
there, bro.
too. Like,
Yeah, he's been through the Valley of Shadow of Death. I've seen him.
I mean,
motherfucker.
that's
So
the
I can-
scary part, right? Because now that we're looking at challengers, I mean, let's be real. Like, you come from Overwatch, I come from Siege. Vansili's been around a lot of tier 2 Counter-Strike, you know? Like, we've all seen this along with Banks. And it's like, you know, when it comes to challengers, like the matchups that we saw, that was some grade A tier 1 shit when we were figuring out our top 8 from top 16, right? And so, like, imagine, you know, Esports Engine / MLG, imagine ESL, imagine Face It. No disrespect to Nerd Street. No disrespect to Nerd Street at all. But like for the Masters and stuff like that, it's kind of like what we spoke about last episode. We were on the conversation, the topic of maintaining like that level when it comes to these bigger events. And the question is like, are we gonna get that now? Because we see what EU is having. Banks, you guys are spoiled in EU when it comes to events. We have the orgs, but you guys have the events. So now the main question is that going to come for us as well, especially after what Uber just shared with us?
Look, I mean, it's important not to conflate the roadmap for Valorant with the roadmap for LCS because it's not the same, right? Obviously, I think there's a very different approach to running an esports league and franchising it, and we're gonna get in the weeds in this a lot. We're gonna end up like doing the back and forth like we did the end of the last year and be here for 4 hours. So, I do look. Listen, I do want to put a button on this for now because there's some stuff I want to discuss before the break. First of all, Banks, thanks so much for coming on board, man. Tell us a bit more about what's up next for you, where we can find you, and what's going on in your world over the next couple months.
I'm just going to be chilling here in Copenhagen for a little bit, doing the blast stuff, but also going to look at my boys because it's on Thursday. We've got our first official game. All this hard work and everything they've been putting in for Alliance. It's exciting because so Mitch, my co-commentator, is also the analyst of the team. Me, him, and the in-game leader, Fearoff, we work in like a triangle of how we do this. So nothing happens within the team unless all three of us agree. Like it has to be all a decision from us three to make sure we're happy with what's going on. So I'm going to be coaching them through the first couple of games and the first day before we find them while we work and find a coach. And I'm just looking to see them do us proud. But the one thing, and I'll say this publicly, and I've stated it already many times, that this is a long-term project. It was nothing about like, oh, we need to hit this success mark. Because there's a lot of teams, especially in Europe, I'm not sure about NA, who were told by their organizations, like, if you don't make this, you're cut very early on. And they were given some shoddy, dodgy contracts and all this kind of thing. Where our contracts are legit, everything is fully done above board. We're working with different agencies. And for me, this is like a passion project where it's a new thing for me to learn as well. But I just want to see this do well. And that's the only reason I joined Alliance is because I was actually offered by other teams with a lot more money they were going to willing to pay me to be a GM and build a team. But with Alliance, we have everything that at least I think is good and a high enough standard in Europe here for the teams to do well, and just ask my players in a couple of months' time to see how they're feeling about it all, because this is something I want to bring in a different approach to how teams are put together from someone who's been in there. And we've all seen this, right? We've all seen the fuck ups and the negatives of it all. Management making decisions or CEOs making decisions who don't even know how to play the game properly, where I'm looking at as so for example, Lucka, who joined the team, and he'll have no problem me saying this, I did not want to trial him for the team. Fearoff and Mitch were like, trial him. I said, look, I've only ever seen him on Jet. Nip, he hadn't played on Jet. And he didn't even want to play Jet. He was just forced to play it because no one else was doing it, yada, yada. I trialed him. I was happy to eat my words. He played different agents. He played really well. And the thing we have as these five is like incredible synergy for a new team. But even if they bomb out and lose in the first game, I don't give a fuck. It's all about the learning process from here. We've got sick boot camp and facility coming up. And the main thing is that I believe in these five and these five believe in my vision. And we made a pretty sick team. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how it all goes.
I'm so.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to it, James. Thanks again so much for joining us, mate. Have a great week. Good luck with your first official match and all the best, mate.
Love you, James.
Let's go. Cheers, guys.
Love you, man. Take it easy, James.
Peace.
Well, gentlemen, that was fantastic. I mean, we could have probably made a whole podcast just hanging out with Banks, but we've got
him.
We've got a ton of stuff coming up today. Very quickly, let's have a look at a very recent tweet we saw from a certain European-based organization, which is teasing us some exciting stuff here. Fnatic has a Valorant reveal tomorrow, so I mean that's exciting. Who do you guys think is going to be? Huh? Any guesses? Summon FC?
Summon.
I would hope so. After hearing that they aren't getting paid or anything like that, like why not? Like Fnatic, pull up. Like we want you, baby.
Time
I
to
think
summon
who else?
them into Fnatic.
Let's make the goddamn event silly. Okay, let's make that happen. I think that will be really exciting. It's also, I love seeing I love seeing British players under the Fnatic roster. That was back in COD 4. Like Fnatic had such a sick UK team, and that was really fun. So let's move on really quickly. First of all, let's have a look at some Papega takes on Reddit, because that's always fun before we get into the kind of before we get into something quite serious. So Reddit was making fun of Dicey. Obviously, 100 Thieves lost that match, right? You know. And we know there were a lot of issues there, and obviously, like, you know, some people have referenced Silence being on the roster. Everyone's sort of getting into Dicey. Guys, just talk about this for a second, because I've got to use the bathroom.
No worries. Can we actually start with
Run.
the first fucking 6 words of this fucking sentence, Veli? There's no VOD for this match. But based on their matches yesterday, they really don't have the ability to let Silence anchor a site or lurk on his own, which Nitro... I was complaining that we didn't even have a fucking score bot, man. And this guy is fucking like doing a full analysis of strategies of how 100 Thieves are playing when there's no fucking VODs.
He's wrong. He has no idea what's going on. But you want to know what the funniest shit about this is? The simple fact, if you take a look at Dicey's stats from the event, the week, they're the same consistently.
Yeah.
As historically as he's dead. Dicey was never the player that was gonna. I'm sorry. Dicey was never the player. This for all you jackasses out there. He was never the player that was supposed to go 20 and 10 every map. He's not supposed to be Scream. He's not supposed to be motherfucking Mixwell or Sinatra. It doesn't matter. Dicey's job is to isolate, and a lot of times you see him team up with Asuna. Like, right? I'm thinking about Bind, right? You see him always attacking Hookah together, defending Hookah, stuff like that. He gets the op and he holds down the lane. That is it. He is not going to be played as Wardell. His role is literally to not go around the map and just kill everybody. It's to hold down his specific lane. You leave that role to the Asunas, everyone else on this roster. Like, I don't get it, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think when you looked at Dicey, some of the matches that we were able to watch, right? So Dicey was also playing a Sage on Bind. They were trying different things. You also have the fact that Silence is in the roster as well. 100 Thieves is a super team if you don't include Dicey. Dicey as a Sage was pushing down fucking B long and still opping people down, and then still able to escape at that point too. So just the play style of 100 Thieves doesn't necessarily complement the fact that Dicey, because we know him as that flashy player when he was playing with Immortals, for example, with Asuna, they think that because he's always flashy, he should be flashy in 100 Thieves. There's a whole different thing. There's so many different layers that comes into a strategy, into this game, into a team that still puts, good effort into what each player should do. And if it's going to be Dicey, you can't be aggressive. Asuna, you're going to be the one running on sewers and getting a 3K on sewers. That's going to be the play. And if you're a professional team, you're going to listen to that call. If it's going to be Dicey, go pop off. I guess it's because of that meme, man. It's always about memes. It's like,
it has to be.
Zoomers, go kill. If Zoomers are going to kill, they're thinking about, okay, then they should be on the top of the scoreboard. And I don't think that should be the take. It should never be the take. I just think that the takes are kind of fucking stupid. I'm not going to fucking lie.
Well, that's also what Brax was unfairly compared to that as well, because he was like the Zoomer in his particular roster, right? But he was playing like Cypher. Everyone was like, I expect more from Brax. You see that one Reddit post just now? This guy's a moron. He's like, oh, well, yes, you see... Judging on how he responded to criticism on tweets in the video they did for fucking content, I was probably mildly scripted. It's clear to see that Dicey doesn't have the same level of maturity as his other duelist counterpart, because when he read tweets that insulted him, he referred to his stats. Shut the fuck up!
Like, what?
Shut up! You have no fucking idea what you're talking about. You guys, like, listen, I appreciate, seeing people early on in a scene just dive in, watch a ton of VODs, watch the games, come into chats like ours with like these takes of, these opinions that they develop. But it's one of two things, right? It's fucking these people on Reddit come with borrowed opinions from pundits like, I don't know, maybe Sideshow, or like Bren has a hot take on Platchat and people take him fucking seriously, and all of a sudden that's their opinion about this player, and you can't fucking change their mind no matter what. Or you get these other players that just like make up these narratives because it's really easy, right? It's like, that player's red, but that player's blue. That's scissors, that's paper, that's rock. That's how people quantify.
Yes.
This is actually a very common psychological phenomenon, by the way. We try to quantify the things we see by categorizing them and comparing and contrasting them, right? Mm-hmm. But you cannot you cannot compare and contrast like Dicey to his counterpart on a different team because the whole roster dynamic is different. Dicey also plays a fair bit of Sage as well. So in compositions like that, he doesn't always have the operator.
Yeah.
You know, in setups like that. There aren't too many sort of people that flex the Jet and Sage as much as they do. I just don't understand. Like, there's no basis of fact for so many of these opinions, right?
Yeah.
But if people parrot them, and people parrot them on Reddit like they actually are legitimate. And this is why, like, sometimes I just like fueling the rumor mill by just saying bullshit and just seeing what people come up with. Here at least are some okay takes here. Like, look at this one here. The Dicey knows his role. He AWPs in a line and he holds it. He's not trying to be a superstar. People shouldn't expect him to frag out with 25 plus kills by playing selfishly and ego peaking like a Shaz Tenzel. This is great to see, right? People understand the nuance, which people tend to forget so often here in terms of what we see on Reddit. So good on you, random Reddit users, because you guys kind of get it.
Yeah,
he knows Valorant. They know Valorant,
dude. The next thing that's gonna pop up is the day that Sentinels gets upset in these VCTs or like going into the top 8 or something like that. I'm sure people are gonna start fucking screaming and bringing out their pitchforks on Zoms. And it's going to continue that way for a lot of these teams. I mean, props to all these players right now in the professional Valorant scene that's able to take all this fucking heat. I don't want to be in their shoes for that. I mean, I get enough of it from casting, and yeah, I think it's just going to be good right now to get off Dicey's back. And of course, I don't know if we're going to talk about it later or now, but it's just the fact that Silence came into this roster. They didn't have Nitro into this. It's been a lot of changes going into the strategies for 100 Thieves going to these matches. There's a lot of factors going on that maybe shows the upset of 100 Thieves. But let's face it, I mean, Carpet knocked them. You know what? There weren't any VODs, but I think Carpet knocked them. They're a pretty good team, and I think they should be going far and should get signed.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
we
will talk about this in a little bit because
non-VODs.
I can't wait to have Jmoh involved and we get some takes from him after the break.
Yeah.
Because obviously, still losing to Carpet Noctem is very bad. It's still like it is a outlier result that you probably don't want to avoid. But there's probably a lot that makes that up. Let's move on to one more topic before we go to a break because I think this one has been interesting, at least for me, that I've been sort of following along with this week. First of all, we saw a tweet from Dust. Dust Moray, obviously, he's working with Vince. Vince is first. So when I saw this, I was like, "What? This is a joke, right? This isn't actually real." It is real, apparently. So Dust and Vince, obviously, great duo in Counter-Strike, and they've been really good in Valorant. Dust says it seems like Vince and I can't duo for the VCT due to region locking. We put in a lot of time already as a duo in Valorant over the last few months and have done several jobs together and done well based on the feedback we've gotten. Hopefully things change. And I'll give them some feedback as well. You guys are pretty good. Dust obviously elaborates on this a little bit later on sort of Reddit. This isn't Nerd Street's issue from what I understand. Obviously, Nerd Street would like to sort of work with them, providing they don't charge too much. But they can't use them because of their regional differences. This isn't just these guys. A good example is the I Hold Shift and Ryan Central combination as well, who sort of worked together. Avril, someone I casted a Valorant tournament with. So basically all of Avril's casting has been NA, and he theoretically can't cast NA VCT. Now let's just before I lose my fucking mind. Let's just step back from this for a moment and ask ourselves why. And rates is not an issue. Well, maybe not for you. Maybe not for you, big fella.
That's your rate.
Yeah. So let's take a step back and ask ourselves why Riot might institute a ruling like this. Why would they region lock talent? Can we give them the benefit of the doubt for a moment?
Well, I mean, the only reasoning behind it is because I know Jmoh did it and a few other people did it as well. They would cast games that was just way out of their time zone overnight. And I actually remember, I forgot what event it was. I remember seeing complaints on, it was either Reddit or Twitter, where they were saying, don't do this again. The casters look tired. Get people from those regions. And then that wasn't too long ago as well. I would like to believe that was about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, wasn't he and Mitch doing like an event in Taiwan or Thailand?
I don't think it was him though. I think it was another pair, but still those conversations were happening. And Riot, they have eyes everywhere. They're watching.
I think it goes maybe further than that too, as to like, you know, you have the Masters that's coming. We're celebrating regions right now for the game. So you have your North American regions, you have your European regions, you have your OCE regions, and stuff, and Brazil. I think at the same time, you're maybe trying to make sure that you kind of like build the talent for the region as well. I know it kind of,
come on,
it's a hot take and it sucks. But I think at the same time, maybe they just want to keep like NA, EU. I mean, Veli, if you look at Rainbow Six, currently you don't have the guys doing NA and EU at the same time, right? For Pro League,
but that's vastly different for the same reason that Rainbow Six isn't as mature when it comes to the level of talent. That's not disrespect to my colleagues; they're the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I fucking love them, but like they don't have the depth and the history as people like me, you, and Uber. And, you know, you take a look at Sideshow, like, you know, he came over from, like, there's a lot of people in NA right now from Overwatch, from all these different games they're trying to commentate. And the casting pool right now for Valorant is fucking insane. But the casting pool for Europe is not as competitive. There's a small group of people. And so when there's bloodshed when it comes to, you know, these caster wars that's happening behind the scenes, yes, it is happening. NA kind of gets cucked. And it's really rough. I expressed this concern a while ago before I did First Strike, and I said, you know, I'm really interested in Valorant. I want to do more events, but the opportunities just aren't there. They're not. Like, Uber, how fucking hard is it for you to get up there, man?
Well, you know, how hard is it for me to cast Valorant? Well, my issue is that my rate floor is too high. So I'll say this right now. Obviously, I've been trying to work Valorant events for a little bit. And obviously had the great opportunity to work with Nerd Street Gamers and Cloud9 on the To the Skies tournament. Unfortunately, it was for a debut, it was fun, and they were able to pay my rate. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm too expensive to use for NSG right now. And I really I love those guys. It is an issue for me, yeah, but I'm not gonna. It's not all about me, but it's a budgets issue. You know, I have lowered my rate by 66%, and it still seems to be a little bit too high. That's fine. That's another whole story. But yeah, it's difficult for me to get stuff. But I mean, I'm not region locked because it's about residence, right? So I reside in the United States, I would be able to do US stuff. I think it may be a immigration issue as well. If Riot want to build up talent in those particular regions, they don't want to have to deal with like trying to get an EU caster to NA or whatever. That might be a bit of an issue. But Avril's a good example of this. Now, this has been reversed since. So Avril is an Oceanic resident. He's from New Zealand. He resides in New South Wales in Australia. He's been casting a lot of NA Valorant, right? His rate floor is too high to get work in Oceania. Why the fuck do you think I left Oceania in the first place? Because it was just impossible to get gigs. Like I was working at a pharmacy and doing it on the side, but when I decided I wanted to transition into a career commentator, I had to leave, right? But, I mean, Avril is already doing ridiculous hours late at night to try and cover NA games, and he's done a fantastic job. So good on him. But basically, he would be prevented from casting NA events because he resides in Oceania, but he would also be prevented from doing Oceania events because his rate floor, as in as low as his rate goes, is still too high for this fucking chump change in Australia. I guess it's not just Australia's giving chump change. We'll get onto that in just a second. That's been reversed. There was a special exception made. I have a great solution for this complicated issue, right? Reverse the fucking decision. I do not know if there is a good reason for this or not. I can't really think of one either way. But you are right. You are not kingmakers of casting duos. Casting duos should be able to choose one another. And if the community chooses them, then you respect that decision and you support them in continuing to grow as a duo. We choose who we work with. I don't want to see a fucking redo of this League of Legends thing where you just mix and match casters and you control the means of production. You have the power because you decide who goes with you and you can split up talent. There is, as far as I can tell, there's not a great reason for this. I think the idea of people looking tired when they're casting, fuck off. Like, sorry, it's a caster's decision
to
do that. Yeah, it's not. That's not a great reason. I mean, you have you have a Dustin, you have a Vince combo who want to work together, who people want to work together, and now they're sort of unable to do so. Vince doesn't have a casting partner in EU. Like he hasn't cast EU because, you know, Banks and Mitch, Banks mentioned that Riot don't want to hire him. That's another story. He can talk about that. You know, there's a whole mix of different talent in EU, but I haven't really seen, you know, Vince get involved. Is there any guarantee that he'll get work in Europe? All we know is that he won't get work in North America. So that's I don't like this at all. I don't understand why it should happen. I think every top sort of broadcast talent would say that this is absolutely absurd. I'd love to hear the reason for it. And maybe there's something that we can get behind, but right now all it seems to do is make things a little bit harder. And I mean, the concept of region locking is very foreign. It's very new. It doesn't like look at I'm talking to Ryan Central. Why the fuck do you think he casts NA? Don't you think that if he could cast European Valorant for any sort of acceptable rate, he would fucking do it? Don't you think this guy would love to not be up at 4 a.m. trying to put out a solid product as a broadcaster? If they could do it, they would. They can't, so they do what they can, and now they're being shut down from actually the hustle that they're demonstrating to go and class some Valorant. So I understand there could be travel complications and stuff like that if it's related to immigration. Fine, but figure it out because it's been done before in the past. Just figure it the fuck out. You know, as far as I understand as well, there's no hurry to do LAN events, maybe some studio events, but it's not hard to get out to Europe. If I need to be flown out to Europe, you know, I can say this publicly. You know, Blast were looking to work with me. I was going to go to Copenhagen and do some stuff with them. Right, that was still an option. That was possible. It would have been a little bit difficult, but it would have been able to be workable. So that's unacceptable. I don't think that. I think that the casters deserve an explanation, right? I know Riot people sometimes hang out in this chat, and I know maybe I've driven them away from how vehement I am with some of my opinions, but guess what? I'm here to say, motherfuckers, I would like these casters, you don't have to do it publicly, but at least explain to these casters why they're getting split up. I don't want this coming secondhand from Nerd Street Gamers being like, sorry, we can't use the two of you together. It's not acceptable, all right? We are already seeing enough stuff this week that devalues the trade of casting, and I'm getting really sick of it. I've spent 10 years trying to work alongside like-minded individuals in casting to elevate the practice and to, you know, to elevate the institution of esports broadcast, and to see it shit on like I have this week is starting to fucking piss me off. And that actually leads on to our next topic before I lose it too much. Anyway, any more thoughts on region locking though before we move on?
I just want to add that I think that if it's going to be about the regions and the logistics of flying and studios and stuff like that too, I think the plans aren't going to be until like the third Masters or even the Champions, right? So at least from now until then, like if you're given the opportunity for these duos to like want to work together and you know get some events, because if you're splitting them up rather, they're still going to have to try to find work in their region. And look at it from Dust's perspective, and look at it from even me. Like I'm not getting. You know, I've done First Strike and everything too, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to do all the events. I still don't know what's coming up this next weekend, right? I don't even know if I'm doing challenges this weekend or not.
Motherfucker, you work every week. Shut up, Van Silly.
I work every week streaming fucking 14 hours, man. That's all I'm fucking doing, man. Does it put food on my table? Not right now.
No.
And I don't have a real-time job right now, right? I'm actually gambling a lot into 2020 and 2021 to see if I could do it for the fifth time. For the fifth fucking time, to see if I can make a career out of casting. And every single time it's been like I've been having doubts with myself to say, am I actually good enough? Is there a reason why I wasn't able to do like getting into the circuit for Counter-Strike, for example, when I've been casting that game since 2002? Is there a reason why I'm not conditioned to look into like studio work for anything that's going to happen in the future because I'm Canadian? Like all these questions are coming through my mind, and while this is happening, I'm still getting fucking old at the same time too. I got fucking shit to pay. I'm married now. I need to settle down, and it's always been like my biggest fear going into esports. And you know, as I come back in 2020 and I've done a few events, Veli says, yeah, I'm doing every single event over the summertime. Did I get paid for some of the events? No. So the issues coming in from 2002, 2003 are still fucking here in 2020, 2021. So there's such a big fear, at least for me, where people think I'm maybe like a tier 1 caster or whatever for fucking Valorant, but at the same time, it doesn't make me comfortable because I still don't know the consistency of my finances right now.
Yes, and that goes into the point I want to make. It's gonna be real quick, Uber. Like now that this is all like registering and digesting right now, and I'm starting to understand it more, it's pointless. Region locking is pointless. There's literally no pros and just all cons, right? If you want to develop talent in a region, click on their Twitter bio and take a look at where they're from. I actually there's a reason why I don't cast, and I stopped casting about a year ago because I temporarily retired from casting because I wasn't with my duos anymore from Gears of War. I just didn't want to do it because I felt like the quality I would bring without casting with the people that I was best with wasn't worth damaging, who I am, my brand, my product that I put out there. Let them work with their friends. Let them work with their duos. And if you want to really build up talent, tell them you want them. Work with them. It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
Okay, so let's move on just a little bit here. I want to preface this next topic. So we're going to talk a little bit. Let's just show the tweet. Can we throw out the tweet here? This is something else I saw in the casting world this week. So Nerd Street Gamers, for the first day of the VCT, it was the qualifiers, right? I think you're the next big voice in Valorant, waiting for your opportunity to showcase your talents. We'll wait no longer. Join us for the first NSG Community Caster Challenge, and you can click there and sign up. This was also alongside Nerd Street sort of putting out an application form to do a watch party. So, and there was actually a vote here. So we have 3 casting pairs who managed to get into this thing, and people were told to vote for their favorite duo. Right. So essentially, the premise was that the duo that was voted for would get to cast the closed qualifiers. They have an opportunity. So these 3 duos obviously put themselves out there and put themselves under community scrutiny for a chance to get their break, which is good on them. I can see the hustle. This is not okay. Nerd Street Gamers, I want to preface this by saying I've been looking to work with them, with Bok and with the rest of them. There hasn't been a great opportunity for me to get involved in Valorant casting with Nerd Street Gamers outside of the one event, and I understand there's actually a bunch of reasons for this. And and I understand that what I'm about to say might burn those bridges, but I had to accept that because what I'm seeing is not okay. If you don't have the budget for a broadcast, don't fucking broadcast the games. Do not cheapen the value of the trade or the industry of esports broadcasting by throwing people into a Sarlacc pit in order to get your games broadcasted. Don't for 1 minute think that I can't see through the fact that you just couldn't afford to pay people to cast those games on that day. It's one thing you can hide behind this sort of charitable idea by giving these guys a chance to compete, but this caster competition, this fucking cockfight, if you will, is no substitute for developing talent. You are not developing this talent at all. Here's what you're doing. You're putting them in a position where they need to pander to the fucking public, who, by the way, don't really understand what makes a great commentator.
They don't care that much.
To get their chance, right? Nothing about the hustle or grind. It's like, do people vote for you in this Twitter poll? And you know what this does? Not only does this sort of cheapen the idea of what it is to be a professional top flight broadcaster. Obviously, bear in mind, professional broadcasters were dissuaded. They were discouraged from applying for this kind of thing, and I can understand why. Fuck me, though. At least I would have got to cast some Valorant. You know what I mean? If I'd got involved in that, you're cheapening the value of esports broadcast. I think right now, personally, that the level of Valorant, I'm gonna say it, the average level of Valorant broadcasting is low. It's actually pretty poor. Casting in Valorant is not great right now, and that is my opinion. Compared to the size of Valorant esports, it's very low. Sideshow said this very well. I'm going to quote him. Compared to the age of Valorant as an esport, it's about right. It sucks because there are a fucking line of top flight AAA esports commentators who want to get involved and want to lend their talents and their passion to Valorant, and they're being glossed over right now. There's no opportunity for them. Golden Boy, Puckett, myself, Veli, and many others that you don't even know about want to be involved and don't have the opportunity right now. And there's a lot of people that we can blame for that, but that's fine. Don't pretend. You don't have the fucking budget to pay casters. That's fine, but then you're making these guys work for free. The casters you pay, NSG, are already getting paid far less than industry standard rate. They are forced into undercutting the community because they have no choice, because they want these opportunities. And now, guys, some of you are in the chat. I know how much you're getting paid. And I can tell you, and it's not enough. Van Silly, how many times have you taken a rate less than what you should be paid to work Valorant recently?
Pretty often. I'll leave it at that.
This is unacceptable. I don't know who decides these budgets. I would assume it's the tournament organizer that decides these budgets, right? Because what happens is you go to write and say, hey, we're one of the people that want to run your event. Here's how much it's going to cost you. Here's the breakdown, and here's what it's going to do. So Riot are complicit in this as well.
Yeah.
All right, these people are being underpaid. And I tell you, if you want to know what the industry rate is, fucking DM me. I've said this once before. DM me. You want to know the industry standard rate? I will tell you. I've told multiple of you, and some of you are still doing this because you have no choice. So I'm really not blaming you casters to a great degree, but you know, like I just keep hearing budgets. We don't have budgets. We don't have budgets. Where's the budgets, right? So I'm not calling any casters out in particular, but we see straight through this community caster challenge bullshit. All right, you don't have the budget. Don't stream the games and then suffer the consequences. We don't have people like, you know, I can't like the system is broken and you're contributing to it if you're a tournament organizer that is paying peanuts. I have spoken to multiple top level esports commentators that cannot get involved in Valorant, even though they're not really doing anything right now, even though the rate's not even that high. I know a guy in Europe right now who is having to downsize a lot of his life because they can't get involved in esports in Valorant because the budgets aren't there. Sort your shit out. I expect better from you, especially when the people that are choosing how to pay the casters are casters themselves and should know better. Fucking shame on you. Do better.
Can I add my 2 cents?
Go for it.
I feel like this damages Valorant and is the opposite of productive to Valorant. It's a detriment to Valorant. No disrespect to Sully Up Mine. I actually DM'd both of them this morning and I said, you know what? I want to give you guys props. You guys went out there and you guys did what you did and crushed it. Keep it up. Keep improving. Like, I hope they have a beautiful career. But you know what? They casted for free. They casted a tier 1 quality level game for free. And what does that do? Number one, I had a friend that used to work for free. And guess what that did for his day rate? It fucked it. Mitch, how long have you been fighting to make these day rates where this is a respectable career path to where you can live comfortably? You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You've probably fought for this for over a decade. I've been fighting for this for over 2 years because
I want to put it. I got lucky, to be honest, because like I work with Blizzard and it's never been an issue. I'm actually like, this doesn't benefit. Fighting for better rates, I guess, might get me some more Valorant work, but like, there's every chance I just go back and work the Overwatch League, who I've had a great working relationship with and have treated me well, and I can feed my kid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
God, if I didn't have the Overwatch League, I'd be fucked, mate. You know, I'd have to go back.
This is the thing, though. Like, I hear what you're saying with that, but now, so we talk about money. We talk about you taking care of a kid and your family, right? So, like, this is real life. This isn't just, we want to cast a better game. So we had a tier 1 quality level game that was cast by Sully Up Mine. No disrespect to them, but you know what? For games like that, if you really want to put Valorant on the map at the highest level, you bring in your A team. You bring in your A team, and they will take the game places. And I'm not saying that Sully Up Mine would never be capable of doing that, but let's be honest, like, yo, like the Golden Boys and them out there, they give you a fucking experience and like any other better than even I would do it. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing.
brings back Valorant. Meanwhile, in Europe, you have a full fucking stage and setup. Like, everybody has desks and like it's legitimate. They bring in their A talent. Even though the level of competition there isn't shit compared to NA, their production and value of events, in my opinion, is just so much better. Then when you tune into NA, it's like amateur. Yeah, it's like amateur events with tier 1 teams, and it, like that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
I personally have nothing against Nerd Street except the fact that I'm kind of angry that I'm not angry. I'm disappointed that this is how things are looking right now, but it shouldn't be this way. We fought hard to make a livable wage, and we have been, you guys have been fighting hard to make Valorant a quality FPS in the esports scene, and this isn't helping either of those points.
Yeah. I would also argue it's a perception problem as well, really quickly, because obviously the VCT, like, Challenges is not supposed to be the top level of Valorant competition in the long term, right? It's supposed to be like a way into Masters. It's not the polished, the shiny, the tier 1 Valorant esport. But right now, it is, because there isn't anything above that, right? We haven't had Masters yet, outside of First Strike maybe, but all the top teams are competing in Challenges right now. So we get this sort of weird issue where, like, production isn't being emphasized that heavily, even though the top teams and the best games are happening. Maybe I think as we sort of filter to like, you know, when we get Masters and maybe sort of Challenges becomes the domain of those tier 2 teams, and maybe people don't expect such a high standard of quality for broadcast and for commentary, you know, maybe it's a sort of a different story, right? So that is, I will say that is one thing. Like, back when before Overwatch League, Contenders was the top level of broadcast, and I was involved in Contenders, and that was like, you know, we were like, man, contenders could be so much better. And then Al happened and it all sort of filtered up there. Look, I don't want to get into this too much. This is an issue. And obviously because we're cast, we can sort of speak to this one specifically. This show is not just about us having a grandstand to try and get paid more. I really want to make that very clear. And I also want to make it clear is that this doesn't benefit, like what I'm saying right now doesn't benefit me. It only hurts me. But I hope that it helps someone else, some of these other commentators that are trying to make their way forward. If I had to burn a bridge so you guys can get fucking paid, so be it. I'll go do something else. I'll kiss my chances in Valorant goodbye, and I wish you all well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way things, like, someone has to fucking do this, man.
No, it's legitimate. It's kind of sad, but you know, like we have a really fun topic after this, but this is something that has to be considered. I hope that this isn't the level of standard that's going to happen for the rest of the year, because honestly, NA Valorant is not going to peak the way it should.
The thing, and I want to give my 2 cents about my awards too, right? So for me, like I am always going to be grateful about like the CLGs, Miss Harvey, and Nursery Gamers that helped me get to where I am today, because I love casting esports and I love this game for Valorant, and they've given me all the opportunities in the fucking world to be able to do this, and thanks to them, I'm able to get first strike. So I'm forever grateful for that too. The thing that's tough for me right now is, again, trying to figure out how things could work financially for me. And when you're looking at it, it seems as though it's okay to have up and comers. We're like devalued in a sense with the amount, because I've been doing this for 19 years, Mitch, right? So I've put sweat and tears, blood, sweat and tears into like developing my casting style. But sometimes in now 2020, it's okay to me be devalued to have other people that are aspiring to be commentators to do like the bigger matches. And when I'm looking at the VCTs or the open qualifiers and stuff like that too, I'm all for it, man. Like I'm into the growth of building the next generation of casters. Don't get me wrong. This is why my DMs are always open, and I do these VOD reviews, and I give you guys my takes and my advices and stuff like that on what I've learned in my experiences. But now that I'm also in a place where I'm trying to make this a full-time career again. And for example, you were saying here, Mitch, there's a potential that, you know, you have something in the back of your hand or in the back of your pocket, so that you still have consistency in workflow and cash flow. Veli, you have Rainbow Six right now with the NAL and stuff like that too, so you have cash flow. I'm currently right now in between trying to make my name somewhere. And I'm hoping that could be in Valorant right now, so I could be in that scene and have that thing in my back pocket too. But to get there right now, where I'm kind of stuck, is like I can't give my full rates, but I also don't want to miss out on certain things because I love casting the game.
So fuck you, right?
So we can lose you.
You're eating fucking instant noodles now, bro.
Yeah. You're
instant
saying
noodles and fucking water, mate.
You're on first strike, and we could lose you because it's not sustainable to like not work and spend Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays casting a game for less than minimum wage if you really average it out. Like I mean, we can lose you. We can lose first strike talent, tier 1 talent because of that.
And the reason, but here's the thing though, for a lot of the people in like the tier 1 scene and stuff like that too, if you're looking at GB or Puckett and stuff like that too, they're kind of like a jack of all trades, right? Because for them to be able to make not necessarily ends meet, but to have a good career in esports and with the tenure that they have to dip into multiple games, which is totally fine. But the thing is, for me, is I strongly believe that if I want to be the best in Valorant in terms of casting, I only want to absorb Valorant, right? I only want to do content reviews, create stuff only around Valorant, because I care about this community and I care about this esports. But the thing is, we can't really have that many events either for Valorant right now, because they're kind of scarce. If you're looking outside of VCTs, there's nothing really else going around besides the Nursery Gamers Monthly, which I think and strongly believe that should be the events for definitely for the up and coming casters that want to make a name out. I think that is a great platform for that, and I'm 100% on board for that. But if not, I think I have to make those decisions to say, look, I have to bring my rates down so that I can actually still survive and hopefully make it into that sense where I can make that salary or secure that bag, I guess, in Valorant in the end. And I'll leave it at that, because I think we need to move on.
Yeah. We got Jmoh waiting for us here, and I'll just say this really quickly. Obviously, I mean, I'm trying to get involved in Valorant. I was willing to, you know, I had a pretty cushy thing with Al. You know, there has to be a reason why I'd want to be involved in Valorant. It's because I believe in it, right? I could just go back and collect the same fucking paycheck and mail it in at Overwatch League if I wanted to, but this is something I care about. So yeah, keep that in mind. And if you're a caster, just really try and talk to each other. If you're tournament organizers, God, I expect so much fucking more from you, mate. If this keeps happening, this is going to get worse for me. Anyway, after the break, we're going to have Jmoh on this show, a name that I've been really looking forward to talking to. He's obviously got some big news for himself recently, and we're going to leverage his wrinkly brain to talk a little bit through what we saw in VCT. A lot to discuss there. Closed qualifiers coming up as well for VCT. So more Valorant tournament action and discussion after the break, right here on Valoranting. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Valoranting after the break. We've gotten through the heavier stuff and now a bit more lighthearted discussion.
Feel better.
Coming on the show, we have someone who likens the Valorant ranked experience to a toxic relationship. No matter how much you hate it, you still keep going back. I want to welcome to the show, recently announced for United, it's Jmoh. Welcome, buddy.
Yo, what's up, guys? Thanks for
Holy
having me
shit,
on
this
the
man's fucking handsome. What's up?
Right, he
Nah.
got the chain on flexing. Like, what is this? Yo?
Damn.
This-
show.
thought I was swagging.
I just always wear it, man. It's just something I always keep on.
Swag don't turn off.
Thanks for having me, though. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
No
no, I
problem.
mean, listen, glad to have you here. You have been around the competitive NA scene for like a ton of time, right? Obviously, this recent announcement to United is not your first rodeo. So, do you want to just tell everybody, who's tuning in, sort of what your history is in esports and in Valorant as well?
Oh no, of course. I mean, it's been a journey for sure for me. It all started by being on Noble back in
Yep.
October or it was a long time, October, September, around there. And obviously, that was the start of my esports career in Valorant at least, and from there I went. I got transferred to Immortals, and I was there for 3 months, and we all know about how that went. And you know, I'm it's something that I keep a chip on my shoulder about that.
Mhm.
I'm happy about the achievements I have with them as a team in that roster, but I think about my future, and that's the most important thing. And now I'm with United, and that's my focus right now.
Yo, Uber, let me take this. Let me feed
got
off
it,
that,
bro.
right?
Yo, you got it.
So Jason, Jmoh, right?
Yes, sir.
You said you got a chip on your shoulder, right, baby? So
Mhm.
why United, and how far do you think this team can go? And why do you think you're a great fit for this? I know that's like 3 questions in one, but I really want to see where you're coming from personally, man.
Well, the thing is, like, this is a team that just lost their IGL, right? They're going through a
Yep.
new transition, their whole new change, and they're all players that are hungry, just like me. We want to win. We want to be the best, right? But we know it's gonna take time because they just lost their IGL. So I want to come in to this team, bring my experience that I have had with the tier one scene for those, couple 3 months around with Immortals, and I want to just toss in ideas, toss in things, and just pick their brains and make them more experienced players.
So does this mean you're hopping into the roster as like the IGL coming into E United right now? And how do you find the IGL currently, or the state of it in Valorant?
I feel like to be in IGL and Valorant's tough, right? You need to know what you're doing, what the team's doing, their abilities, their ults. Yeah, there's so much going on, right?
Mhm.
And as player coming in, I really don't have much IGL experience, but I have experience in the scene enough that I could play
Yeah.
IGL. You know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
I feel like I could hop in as IGL for this team, because of knowing, like, just by experience with the game, I could definitely transition to that role as an op IGL, which is not really that or Jet IGL, which isn't really that rare anymore. But yeah, for sure.
That's true. I was gonna say, because like if you're thinking about Jet IGL, so of course Showtime, you're the previous person that was there, but you're thinking about Shazam at that point too. I think DXN also at some point was IGL calling as Jet. Why is it not that rare actually? Because you basically have to focus a lot on getting that entry, especially as Jet.
It's weird to me because yeah, you have to be focusing on entering, and you're gonna be going in first, and you're the head of the team. You need to be making the plays,
Yeah.
right? You're a
Mm,
duelist. But I feel like, it's weird, but it's common that
Mhm.
Jets are starting to become more into the IGL role. But just like, in CS, Fallen for,
yeah,
he was an IGL for
that's
that
true.
MIBR. And it's just something about the op role. By getting that, map knowledge, the map control, what's happening. So if you just it's just something about that.
Do you find that it's
Okay.
easier to call sort of macro, right? So like mid round, late round stuff while you're playing Jet? Because obviously you might go for an early peak and then sort of tailwind away and then maybe play a little bit safer the rest of the round. Do you feel like you're in a good position to call like the rotates or sort of the late execute?
Oh no, for sure. Yeah, like I said before, whenever you're a jet, you need map control.
Yeah.
You need to be holding down somewhere, and if you see nothing, Cypher's not showers or whatever, you
Hmm.
call that to your team, and just like that, it clicks, and they know what to
Yeah.
do. Like you need to be straightforward, knowing what you're doing pre-round, and that makes you have the chance to mid-round call and know what's going on for the rest of the round.
So about you, Jmoh, listen,
Billy's just in
Oh
love,
man,
bro. Can you just
Listen.
contain yourself, bro? Take the dinner, bro. At least.
listen,
what
listen,
started.
listen. So Jmoh, I love watching you first strike. When you guys
Thanks,
kept
man.
going A on the icebox, it was really cute. By the way, whose idea was that? You need to call him out right
Oh
now.
my gosh. You know what? He doesn't want to admit to it, but JC Stanny, man.
That's why he doesn't want to call anymore, bro. He's like, no, I'm done.
He doesn't want to admit to it though, but it's JC, man.
There wasn't nobody in that conversation that said, "Nah, dog, I think we need to go B." There was no one that spoke
Uh,
up.
it's crazy because I'm pretty sure we still had like a 7-5 half, even though we lost. It was
Yeah.
like 7-5. It wasn't like like a 9-3 or anything crazy.
It started like
know-
6-0 though, but
Oh yeah, it started 6-0, but I don't know. We thought we could surprise Envy with the Icebox pick because they
Mm.
thought we were gonna ban Split, or no, they thought we were gonna play Split against them, I think.
yeah.
But we banned Split and we played Icebox first map, and you know we regret it. We regret
No
it for
regrets.
sure.
No regrets, bro.
Oh my gosh, no! But if we would have played Haven or Ascent first map,
Yeah.
different series for sure. Hopefully.
So
Actually, go ahead, Uber.
no, all I wanted to say is that obviously like, I will not harp on your time with IMT too much, right? Because the future's looking pretty bright for you. But I was kind of curious to know what your biggest takeaway was. Like, what's the most teachable moment
Exactly.
that you had at Immortals, and like, what is it that you bring to E United now as a result of that experience?
That's a good question. I think the biggest takeaway is just knowing that nothing. You take nothing for granted. You need to
Mhm.
be always winning, always focusing on yourself and the team. And you know, esports is a crazy world. Anything could happen, but
Yep.
no matter what, you just want to keep playing. The best of your abilities, learn from your mistakes, and just improve on what you need to improve on. Just you want to be better each day. You don't want to just take, getting benched as like this is the end of the world, right? Or like
Yeah.
getting
Yep.
cut like, okay, I can't find a team. No, you want to take that as motivation. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. Just this was like the biggest motivation for me to find another roster, to grind it out all over again and start winning. That's all
Yeah.
that matters for sure.
And sorry to continue one more question here on your stint with Immortals too. It's because looking at it from the outside perspective, and you also playing for Immortals before, and now, for example, as we could get into the VCTs too, you see now that Immortals have made it into, or they've won the open qualifiers, right, versus Envy in the end. So, what was that magic recipe for Immortals with having such a revolving door through the past iterations, but still perform so well? You had emergency replacements with Shanks coming in too at some point, and you guys are still popping off to qualify for first strike.
No, yeah, like for sure. Mortals they're always about winning, right? Every
Mhm.
roster they've had, it's always been a roster of winning. With Asuna and Dicey,
Yep.
Kohler, all them. They always won games. They were always up there.
Mhm.
With their new pickups and chemicals in nature, they're definitely really good players. They got picked up from the tier 2 scene, and they're definitely showing up right now. But I'm not going to be saying anything until we see what if they actually make it to the
Yeah.
tournament.
True.
The open quali, great. The seeding is
Seeding, yeah.
great. All that doesn't matter. Let's see how it happens when if they make it through. Then I'll be happy for them though. But it's the open quali, and they still perform well. They beat Envy and Sentinels, but
Yeah.
we'll see how it is.
Do you think Valorant's random? People having this same discussion like constantly. Like 100 Thieves, they get knocked out early. TSM lose obviously to Xset. What do you think about this?
I think the game is in a stage where it's just like anybody can beat anybody if you're not on your A game, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love about Valorant though. Like that's what it's great because upsets could happen out of nowhere,
Mhm.
and people would be like people would be. That's what makes the game fun. You don't want like an Astralis, right? Like some guy
Yeah.
just dominating the scene all the time, like in CS. But you like when like new teams come out of the nowhere, beat other teams, and then they grow. You know, like that's what you want to see. You want to see those teams grow up.
Yeah, but so we had a tweet that came out about like 2 weeks ago. I think it was from KP, right, or Inox, that was saying like the state of like even tier 2 for Valorant is
Mhm.
so volatile. Like you said, anybody could beat anybody. But is it necessarily about the A game, or is it about like some people were mentioning like the RNG of like some certain pistol rounds or certain guns, the running and gunning, or even like is it more momentum based? How do you perceive this as to why do we have these upsets?
Obviously in Valorant because it's so short of rounds, 13 rounds. Pistol rounds are really crucial, right?
Mhm.
And right now the frenzy is just unbelievable. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but yeah, right now, as in today, pistol rounds are straight RNG with the
Mhm.
frenzy, and
Okay.
I had to admit, even with the right click classic, that was really that was annoying. But the frenzy armor, man, I'm telling you guys, if they swing with the frenzy, you're not winning that fight. It is impossible. But it's crazy to me. But yeah, of course, winning pistols are important. But what makes good teams great is the gun rounds, right? And
Yeah.
if you don't win the gun rounds, then you can't be a great team, no matter what. Because like like I said, like pistol rounds, some good teams, pro teams lose to some tier 2 teams on pistols, and it's whatever. But like that's what makes them great is winning those gun rounds and how they come back from that. So for
Mhm.
sure, yeah, on that.
All right,
Let's talk
bro.
about your. Oh, sorry, you go, Billy.
No, no,
I've been
no,
talking
Uber,
over you.
you go.
I just kind of want to know. I kind of want to know a little bit like what the temperature check is on a United now, right? It's so early. It's really really early days, right? Obviously, you play in the qualifiers here. You end up going up against C9 White. It ends up being like a 3 map series. Talk to us sort of what goes wrong there. Obviously, uh, C9 White obviously looking a little bit better. I guess we didn't get a Mel pop off this time, which may be for the best. But yeah, so they look to be improving, but obviously you guys experienced them firsthand. So tell us about that.
So pretty much, let me just say something. Katie's insane. She deserves to be
Mhm.
on a tier 1 team. I don't care. And second of
Mm.
all, I mean, like I got picked up a day before the challengers, so we weren't expecting to go that crazy, but we wanted to win, of course.
Mhm.
But I'm not taking any credit away from C9Y. They still played amazing, but yeah, I got picked up a day before, so we were just honestly we didn't have too much to go over. We are just, they wanted me to be free in the challengers. They wanted me to like, be comfortable. So we just went in there. We tried to win. They played great. And that was that. We'll be
Mhm.
definitely prepared for the 1 in 8 days, though. I'll tell you that.
Nice.
All right, so the calls are done. Well, not done. We have the top 8. What is your honest and real opinion on how this is about to go down? Who are the 4 teams that are going to make it, man?
I need to see that list again. So
It's 4 teams, right? It's 4 teams.
Yeah, it's 4
yeah.
teams.
Yeah, 4 teams get through. So it's NRG, Envy, Immortals, Sentinels.
hmm
Oh,
Okay. I think Envy will make it past Ambox, but I think that's gonna be a good
okay.
game. I think Sentinels will beat Luminosity, but I know Luminosity is doing really good too. Genji NRG is gonna be a great match. That's
Yeah.
gonna be. I feel like that's probably definitely probably one of the best matches.
What do you think about Kusta actually joining?
What
Because
does he
you
add to this
mentioned a lot of
team?
CS. So what's your thought on
Yeah,
Kusta?
yeah.
Yeah.
I've scrimmed a couple times against Genji so far with Kusa, and he's a really good player, man. He's definitely already transitioned really
Solid.
well. He's a great cipher. He's a really
Yeah.
good player, and I think he will definitely be one of the top players for sure in the next couple months. The more he plays, and he'll be great. And yeah, he's Genji. Genji's looking good. Don't be surprised. I
Okay.
feel like Genji might be NRG. I think Genji will be NRG. Um,
Okay.
probably like 2-1, be really close. But NRG is also great too. And I think Immortals, exit, man.
Say it. It's all right. It's all right. Say it.
Yeah, I don't have bad blood with my boys at Immortals, but I gotta go exit, guys.
Hey, there you go. Hey, now one
It'll
more
be
team.
it'll be close though.
One more team. What about FaZe Clan? How do you feel
Oh,
about them?
true. FaZe, yeah. They're a great team. Uh, you know, they're
That
definitely.
was a bait for Uber. I wanted to see Uber's reaction to that.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, are they just weird to play or to watch? Like, what's your take on? I want your take on FaZe Clan because they seem
And
just bizarre.
I don't know. I mean, that team, they're good. They have really good players, and they could win against anybody. But it's just, yeah, like you said, it's bizarre.
Mhm.
Mm.
But I mean, I don't know too much about them, like in depth. But they definitely could beat anybody on any given day or night. But just It's just I don't know. It hasn't really
Thought-
happened.
And thoughts on Silence with 100 Thieves? Of course, they got upset and stuff like that too. But like, do you? So we were kind of like theory crafting that it's not the same role for Silence because he's usually a duelist. He's also has to fill in the role for Nitro. I've mentioned that Dicey had to play a Sage on certain maps too. Overall, what's your take of how 100 Thieves came into this event?
Definitely Silence has some big shoes to fill with Nitro, right? And 100
Yeah.
Thieves, they just won first strike, so
Yeah,
he definitely a lot of pressure for the young gun there, but he's a good player, and I think he has definitely a lot of potential. Unfortunate they didn't make it through, but he definitely has a lot of potential, and I think he was definitely a good stand-in for them.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, like you said, he plays duelist, but now he's playing Omen. And Omen, I mean, Omen is kind of a duelist, guys. Let's be honest. Like,
I call him a
gosh,
duelist. I call him a
yeah,
duelist. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
I
So,
guess you have no choice when you can't afford a fucking paranoia anymore.
no, yeah, oh, yeah,
Gotta make money somehow. God fucking damn it.
oh, yeah. So, yeah, no, he's a good player, and I think it just takes time for sure
Yeah.
for him to transition into that role of Nitros.
So basically, when it comes to E United, like let's be completely honest. E United, they're
Billy's
not
an
the.
United fanboy, by the way. Just I don't know if you
I'm
know
not a
that.
fanboy. Relax, man.
He's on the Johnson. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, listen. I will say this: I carry their coach in rank, but other than that, though, no, I'm
That
playing.
doesn't say much.
All right,
man.
yo, Vince,
Whoa!
chill. No. I really wanted to utilize this moment, right? People don't talk about E United, but E United, they're obviously doing well in games.
Mhm.
From your experience of joining E United, like you don't even have to suck up to them. Why the fuck do you really like this team? Like, who stands out? Like, if we were to watch the E United play tomorrow, who's the player we need to watch out for? What's going to make this team special?
Scrunch for sure. The Reyna. His name is Tanner.
Yes.
He's
Oh
really.
shit!
I'm telling you guys right now, he
He said,
definitely.
"Oh shit."
He's Tanner, dude. I mean,
Yeah, he's. I'm not. He's definitely an up and coming player. He is like one of the best aimers I think I've seen. And I played with Shot Up. That guy is absolutely
I was
crazy.
gonna say.
Mhm.
So like if you compare
Wow.
it to like Shot Up to Thief and stuff like that too, how's Scourge up there?
He's Scourge. I like. That's tough, man. I don't know. He's aim wise. He's pretty much up there. Like
Okay.
it's
Okay.
right there. He's young too,
Good
right?
praise.
He's young too, man. So he definitely has a lot of upside for him, and
Nice.
it just takes time. Like I said, it's gonna take time for everything, but I know I'm ready for it, and we're gonna start winning soon for sure.
The time is in 8 days.
Yeah,
8
Jmoh,
days,
we
it's a long time.
we cannot wait to see more from this United roster. I think we're pretty excited. You kind of give us. I'm glad we got you on here. You give us a lot more to look forward to as well. It's great to hear what's going on inside the engine room there as well. And I know a lot of people that really enjoy watching you with IMT will be excited to see you pop off with United. Before we move on and let you go, because we've kept you waiting a fair while even before you got
sorry
here.
about that, man.
No,
Where
it's
can people
okay,
follow
guys.
you? Are you out there streaming? You know what I mean? Like, on you're out there on Twitter. Let us know where we can sort of connect with you and sort of keep up with you, what you're up to.
Oh yeah. So you want me to say my Twitter?
Yeah,
Okay.
Plug it, my guy.
It's just Jmoh GG. I don't really post that much, but you'll find some good content there, I guess. And
Hell
on my
yeah.
stream, Jmoh is just Jmoh. Twitch.tv Jmoh.
awesome. Jmoh, thanks so much for joining us, man, and good luck in 8 days. Of course, the clock's
Thank you.
ticking. I'm sure you're getting ready. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yo,
See you
thank
in
you
the
guys
top
for having
4.
me. Oh yeah. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Take
Thank
it
you
easy,
guys so
man.
much for having me. Take it easy, guys.
A pleasure.
Peace, bro,
Later,
peace.
brother.
Tell your coach I said he sucks. All right.
I'll let him know. I'll let him know.
All right.
Peace out, guys.
Peace
See you,
out.
bro. All right. There you have it. So much to look forward to there as we're continuing to see teams vie for supremacy in our challenges qualifiers. Keep an eye out for United and Jmoh, obviously. And bear in mind, when you watch him play now, you kind of have a bit of extra context about how he fits into the team. Eventually, for me, that's always that adds so much more enjoyment to watching a player, knowing like that their function is in the team, right? And knowing that he's
100%.
actually calling from that jet position.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge respect increase for me, right? And
Mhm.
I'm looking out to see how that manifests in their play.
For sure. Definitely. I think again, when you see it from Shazam's point of view, and I never even thought about it, and he was like, oh, it's common. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And Sentinels has always had really good results out of it too. And when you have somebody that's like an operator that's looking down towards an angle, then you kind of already know where you're kind of splitting up the defense, for example, if you're going to play on the attacker side. And I guess on the defenders, you don't really need to talk quote unquote that much. Because you already always have some set defaults, and that's definitely going to help. I mean, he's been a great opper when I was watching with Noble and when I was watching with Immortals. He pops off most definitely on maps like Haven. Overall for this team, definitely looking forward to how this is going to mesh out, because like you said, this is still fairly new for him, right? It's going to be new for him, Nicole, too. So is it going to even work out when you have somebody as seasoned as Showtime, for example, that, you know, dropped his position for that? But I think I see value in that, because for Asuna and Dicey, you know, from 100 Thieves, from Immortals going to 100 Thieves, then you had Neptune that came by, and then they went over to Dignitas. Like, anybody that came through this roster has found a good home with a good team. I mean, Kohler maybe, unfortunately not, but he did try out with the energy, right? So there's high value for these players. To be honest. Exactly. His streams pops off. He's still amazing as a duelist mechanically. But when you're looking at Jmoh going through Immortals and now landing in E United, E United sees the value in this player. So I think he's going to add a lot to this team.
Let's crack on, gents, because we're already at, we're already at the normal length of an episode, but we've got to talk about some of these tournaments. I didn't want to keep Jmoh too much longer, but let's go back through what we saw at VCT. For those that are maybe, you know, tuning in at this point and are wondering sort of what we saw this week, here is your completed bracket. I mean, most notably, we see that IMT ends up taking it all, and they make their way through a veritable gauntlet of top teams. XSET, Sentinels, Envy, one by one, they fall.
It was crazy. Really
impressive. I mean, you know, this is why people maybe wonder if Valorant is kind of random right now, because this is such a new look roster, right? This Immortals with Chemicals of Nature coming in, with JC Stunny moving away from the calling position. It feels unheard of, and a team with a new IGL just winning a tournament like this. But before we get too deep, I think that those teams that competed in like the Complexity Invitational, the NSG Winter Championship, have kind of leapfrogged a lot of our previous, you know, top teams from First Strike. I think being involved in as many tournaments, as many best of 5, best of 3 situations right now is super important, and I think that gap is really closed between our tiers. You know, even guys like XSET, you know, everyone calls them a tier 2 team, right? I mean, they beat TSM, so you can really see you know, that some of these aren't just flashes in the pan. They're not just flukes at all.
No, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Belly.
I was gonna say, ultimately, I mean, that was bound to happen, right? The teams are at the top 8 when the game first came out. Everyone has been saying, just wait, give it a little bit. Teams are gonna catch up. So then that's when you see the excess, the Andboxes, the Luminosities pull up. Even Renegades made it to First Strike. No one saw that coming. And now some of the top teams are starting to fall. You don't hear a lot about Dignitas, Gen G, or anyone like that anymore, to be completely honest. And that's kind of refreshing to me.
I mean, Gen G, I think Gen G are back in the mix, right? I think they look.
You don't hear about them like we used to, though. Like Gen G was that team.
Dude, I think they're coming back, though.
I know, but we're talking about like where they were before. Gen G was that team. Everyone, a lot of people had Gen G in like their top 4.
Yeah. I mean, they were. I mean, who do they? I mean, in fairness, Gen G get an easier run as well. I think in the VCT, right? Who they go up against? Like Pittsburgh Knights, they beat Renegades 2-0, so that's good. Remember, Gen G and Renegades could not be more different as teams, right? Gen G very structured, very sort of disciplined, maybe a little bit outdated in some of their strategy. RNG is like super aggressive. By the way, RNG recently just dropped Berkey, so that's been announced. It's just a shame. I really liked him, but so Gen G go up against NRG and then they get flattened. But you know, Kusta seems to add quite a lot to this team, and we see him back in the mix. He looks pretty darn good.
I mean, even then, they brought in MCE as a coach now for Gen G, so I think that's going to bring a lot into the roster as well. MCE having a lot of experience into Counter-Strike, even back then too, for the past couple of years. So I think continuing to have this Counter-Strike mindset going into this game of Valorant. Yes, I know we don't really want to compare Valorant with CS:GO or CS in general, but I think do it anyway. Sorry, we are as well. It's just literally it's CS players playing Valorant right now, and you like to see it because they're usually the teams that perform on top, into the top whatever, top 4, top 8. It's a bunch of Counter-Strike players. Why? Because they know like how to move around the map. They know when to move around the map. They know the state of when the execution is going to come. And the mindset of having an IGL, like I think I can only think about Profi off top of my mind, like one of the non-CS IGLs that's doing very good for a team. Aside from that, I see nothing but CS:GO callers and coaches, which is always great addition. Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about Sentinels. They obviously they get to the semifinals, but we don't think we really loved what we saw for them. Although I will say, Sick is now playing Sova as well.
Yes.
So just adding another one to his roster of played heroes here. But we see Sentinels, they're able to take down Nbox. I mean, Nbox are always a treat to watch on Split for me because Poach obviously, turns up on the Viper.
Yeah.
So that series they look pretty decent in that series. Sort of Sinatra starts to flex a little bit. I think across the series he ends up like, I don't know,
He did really well. Yeah.
There obviously we see Sentinels mix in the Sage a little bit here as well on Split. Which is, I mean, we've been wondering how teams look on this map now that it's changed so much, and it definitely looks very different. Vancilla, you did a 14-hour stream. I mean, what are your thoughts on Sentinels as how they ran through?
I think Sentinels look really good to actually have Sick over to Silva to play on Icebox more specifically, switching out from Sky. Because as I mentioned before, they were starting to get a little bit more telegraph when you're playing. When you're playing Sentinels, you kind of have an idea of how they're going to start executing to a site and how to explode. And Sentinels are, we talk about them of how they're good in terms of when a person dies, there's already another person right there to trade within the next 1.5 seconds maximum. So when you have a game plan to play against Sentinels to say, look, we need to buddy up and we need to trade out. And if you're confident in your aim, you're going to win, which is why their battle versus LG in the Nursery Gamers Winners Championship has been so close for both of these teams, where LG took the upper hand because it was just Thief popping off. So when you're starting to understand a little bit the trading system versus Sentinels, then you're starting to, you're starting to understand that they might start getting a little bit more predictable too, where, even if Sinatra or somebody else is popping off for the team like Sick, maybe sometimes now it's not enough. Do they need to add a little bit more structure into it now? Is the calling versus them enough? Do they need more support? Do they even have a coach right now? I don't even think they have a coach. So I think they need to bring in like a fresh mind into like understanding, not necessarily understanding the game, but that studies the game from a different point of view too, just to add a little bit more flavor into into the real potential that we see or that we expect from the Sentinels.
One thing that I want to point out, I mean, yeah, the roof isn't on fire, the sky isn't falling.
That's right.
Sentinels, all right, when you look at TSM, man, silly, you say they're a top 2 team. They're a top 2 team. They're going to clap everybody. They're going to get to the finals. We're going to get a good game. Sentinels, we used to think the same thing every single time. I'm starting to worry a tiny bit, just a tiny bit now.
Okay.
Sentinels are, I think when you say Sentinels, you think of a championship team. Am I wrong? Nothing less, right?
Sure.
Exactly. Their games are starting to become so close now. I remember paying attention to that Serenity game. And Serenity won the first map. You go to the second map, it's tied 11-11. Sentinels win the map by winning 2 rounds straight, and then obviously won a third map in great fashion, right? The Sentinels, they don't look like they have that killer instinct that I used to see with them anymore. Like, yeah, Sinatra, he popped off. But like, you even think about the Winter Championships before that, when they lost to Luminosity. That wasn't the Sentinels that I knew. Sentinels are way better than that, man. Like, come on. Shazam is popping off, but it's not as dominant, and it's like they don't have that oomph they usually have. So I'm hoping in these close qualifiers, Sentinels, they're like, listen, Bailey, like shut the fuck up. We are still the top team in this game, and this is how we're gonna show it off. But right now, I don't know.
So
I'm wondering if they still have that edge to them.
Veli,
Not
are
saying
you
they're bad. It's just they're looking different.
Yeah, but as you're mentioning here, Vili, that TSM is like top 2 when it comes to your mind, but they even didn't make it to the top 8. So you're starting to get worried about TSM too?
Oh no, I mean, yeah, it fucking sucks that they lost like that. It was rough. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, I was worried about TSM losing, but you know what? They're gonna be back next week.
Okay,
I know that you can have a bad event, bounce back and win it like that.
I will say this:
but
TSM.
consistently.
TSM are the only team, by the way, that tried. I think Europe's a little bit ahead in terms of the meta right now. I think their Icebox
Sage
plays
and Sky.
stellar. Right. Well, yeah, it's also the Sage and Viper as well. Yeah, but the Sky, TSM are the only ones trying that. They're the only ones that are trying that European style, and I think they're just trying. This is the team, by the way, that we thought would be locked into triple duelists for the rest of eternity.
Yeah,
but and look at this, Cutlass playing Sky now. Like they're trying a bunch of different stuff. Yeah. I'm not judging them based on this tournament. They lose to Xset. Xset are a quality fucking team. And TSM are in transition. Sentinels for me, my issue boils down to this: they're so veto dependent, right? These guys, they keep fucking picking Icebox. They have like a 50-50 win rate on that map. If they lose Icebox, they lose because Haven's an insta win for them. They're 12-1 on Haven since the start of December, right? They try and ban Bind. We don't see them play Bind at all a lot of the time. Or maybe it gets banned against them, but the Split and Haven they're usually fine on, but if they get Ascent and Icebox in a best of 3 series against a decent team, I'm fucking worried.
Yes, that's what I'm
They
saying.
keep picking Icebox against these teams, and again, they lost it to Luminosity at the NSG Winter Championship. They fucking played it, in this matchup as well against Immortals, and they lost that as well. Like, this is supposed to be your draw card map, and you're getting shit on. Like Shazam just dicking people down with the operator on A side defense is not enough to get you the win. Then something is wrong here. Their Ascent, like Sentinel's Ascent, is pretty average. I'll be honest with you. Like IMT, you know what's so crazy about this roster? The amount of time that IMT spent inside Sentinel's spawn when IMT were on the attacking side is ridiculous. Like, Sentinels have such a loose hold of the A side, right? And IMT constantly just sending one of their players wrapping through. And a Proto did this to Sentinels as well. He just pushed up through A heaven into their spawn. I don't know. I'm a little bit frustrated because if Sentinels get like a map pool that features Haven and Split as 2 of the 3 maps, then I think they win 100% of the time.
I mean, honestly, like I get where Vancilia is coming from, and like, yeah, TSM lost, but they're trying out new shit as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that loss is one thing, but at the end of the day, if I'm talking to anybody on Sentinels, I would tell Sinatra, like, to his face, like, yeah, I think you guys are better than this. You're not performing at a high level. You know what? As competitors, they need to understand that. And I am the reason why I'm bringing this up is because my expectations for this team are better than what we're seeing right now. I think Sentinels are way better than what we've been seeing the last 2 weeks, right? So me saying that, it's not that I'm shitting on them. It's like, yo, wake the fuck up. I know who y'all are. Do y'all know who y'all are still? I still think I still think that they can win in dominant fashion and just pop off and show off like they used to do when they were top 2 in the game. But right now, it's you can't comfortably sit there, look at them, and taking all the bias out of your mind because they're Sentinels and you have Shazam and Sinatra there. You can't say this is like a dominant top 2 team. This is like a championship team. You can't.
Okay, but in fairness, we are playing fucking best of 5 seeding matches right now.
Best of 5, yeah. No. But by the way, in any arguments I bring about teams or whatever, I do not count the seeding matches.
Okay. Yeah, I think that
they're pointless.
I don't really know. I mean, I don't know why we're seeding.
Why are we watching seeding matches?
Yeah, I know.
I don't watch seeding matches.
At least we get quality Valorant. I guess that's fine. I just think that it's, first of all, it started off like being too late, right? The players complained about starting at 7 p.m. That got fixed, easily enough. This is a whole lot of rigmarole just to fucking get into, because obviously Challenges 1 doesn't qualify you for Masters. You had to, it seeds you for Challenges 2, which then could qualify you for Masters. So it's just like, it's a whole lot. Is Ito in chat complaining about casting seeding matches? Shut the fuck up. At least you get to cast them, bro. Sit the fuck down.
They already have seeds. Just take the top 4 and do it another week and top it, me.
Exactly. If I'll fucking take over, then piss off. I'll do it. What I don't understand is that you don't need all of this. I don't think this is necessary. You're playing a seeding tournament to seed for a double elimination break. Like double elimination helps. Double elimination helps smooth out the crinkles in like an unseeded tournament already, right? Because you get a second chance. You are double eliminate. All I'm saying is the way it's a lot. It's a lot to just seed teams.
But I think even now when you're looking at the formula that they have for this season for Riot is pretty similar to what we saw in First Strike too, right? Like at that point, we were playing matches for seeding when we were looking at the UMG qualifiers and the NSG qualifiers going into First Strike. It's exactly the same thing. I don't think it's that bad. I think even on top of that too, once we get into the challenger stage, there's even now finally money involved into that. So I think it's fine for me. And again, going back to what we were talking before, to be able to have some seeding matches, I think to be able to have up and coming casters and talent to be able to showcase their worth and showcase their skill set as up and coming casters, I think this is still a great stage for it too. I think the viewership necessarily doesn't. Maybe there's not that much importance into it, but people still enjoy watching it. So I think the viewership is still pretty decent for what we gotten for the matches. I'm happy.
No one's complaining about Valorant viewership, right?
Yeah,
I think we're pretty happy with
it's just the fact that it's all pointless. Like think about the newcomer. Like think about growth of the game, right? Because you're talking about health of the game and how beneficial it is to the community. So I tune in and I see Cloud9 destroy a tournament for First Strike. I see them beat the shit out of everybody. I'm new to the game. I want to get into Valorant. Oh, cool. I'm a Cloud9 fan. Next weekend comes along. Yeah, Cloud9. They won the tournament, but then they played against the same teams and they didn't make it, so now they're out of first strike. I'm confused.
Mm.
It shouldn't be that confused. Number one, it's confusing. Number two, I just think it's unnecessary. The seeds are there. They got the top 8. To just take that bracket and just keep it going. Like, well, what's the point, really?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want viewers
Teams
to
are
get burnt out.
throwing.
Like, I want TSM versus 100 Thieves to be special, right? I want these matches to be special. So all I'm just hoping we don't see is for the sake of seeding, that these we don't get just like spoiled with. We're getting great Valorant, right? The point is not to give people less great Valorant, but you want these games to mean something, all right? Especially if you want people to get invested. So when you really put people through the churn of all these seeding and qualified games, it can diminish the importance or impact of these games. Yeah. Anyway, so let's look ahead then, right? We don't have to talk about FaZe Clan. They did pretty well against Luminosity. They end up going 2-1. I think that they've got a really unique style, and it's mind-boggling that they're able to take some of these games away from these top teams just because they're individually they're so skilled. It's crazy. I just can't believe. It's just incredible what they could show us if they had like that real coaching and structure. But that one's been done to death, and I don't want to beat the dead horse anymore. Do you want to talk about what we should expect? We kind of teased it with Jmoh, but what we should expect next week coming up here into the close qualifiers.
Quick predictions. I'm down with quick predictions.
Yeah.
Let's
have a look. February 4th. Here's our teams.
I'm pulling up the teams now. I mean the bracket. I'm pulling up the bracket. So all right, top to bottom, right? Immortals against Xset. Xset and Andbox, by the way. I think of them as the same team because of the way they've come up. Holy shit, they're amazing. So yeah, so Xset over Immortals, NRG over Gen G, Envy. You know what? Envy, they didn't sell the dream to me during first strike, but I still believe in Mummy and the rest of the boys over there. They're special. I'm all in on Envy. And Sentinels against Luminosity. Sentinels should. I want Sentinels to win. They should win. But they need. I'm gonna need them to be like, Veli, shut the fuck up. Watch us do work. Until then, you know what? I'm gonna go with the underdogs only because I like chaos. Luminosity over Sentinels.
Yeah,
I know that sounds crazy, but a proto.
I mean, they've done it once. They've done it once.
I mean, it's really whether you think that victory was a flash in the pan or whether it can happen again.
People think a big org name and big team name automatically wins, that they should always win. But like, it's a hot take to a lot of people. I've told this to a lot of people. They're like, really? No, I believe in Luminosity, man. They're next up. Luminosity, Andbox, and Xset. Shit.
So for me, Dan, can we bring back the tweet? So just for people that are visual too. For me, I have everybody on the left side of the column of that tweet that's gonna win. So Immortals versus Xset will be Immortals for me. Immortals just look really freaking amazing throughout the VCTs. Like I said before, they made me a believer. I've tweeted out that Sentinels and Immortals. I'm now believers that on off days, I can't think about off days. I can't think about what ifs. These guys are here to play and they're going to destroy it. NRG over Gen G, I think it's going to be a very close one, like Jmoh says. Kusta is going to be a very good cipher for the team, but I still think that Energy is more complete going into this matchup. Envy versus Nbox. I mean, Caboose just had an amazing series as well, although they lost to Immortals. I think this team is going to continue to go far. And I actually do want to see a semifinals match where it's going to be Envy versus Sentinels. So I'm going to have Sentinels take over LG because Sentinels, they always come back fighting just like a TSM. And once you get to the semifinals, I just want to see that matchup because we talk about how we want matches to have weight. I think this victory is going to be important for Envy if they're going to be able to beat Sentinels for the after 9 times that they met up face to face to be able to beat them. The thing is, people might put an asterisk on there. You're only playing for seeding, whatever. But I think for Envy, it's going to be a nice win if they're going to be able to take it versus Sentinels.
I feel like we've definitely seen Envy start to bounce back a little bit more, right? I like to see that structured style evolve more and more as time goes on now. I think we're seeing like a boost play a bit more of the Omen now as well, and we're seeing Food in some different roles. So that's a team that excites me. That's a team that also, by the way, didn't take those couple weeks off after first strike. Right? They kept competing, and I think that really has helped them a lot. So thoughts about NRG and Genji? Let's expand on that a little bit more. Is there anything that we're sort of excited for coming into that match? Do you think it's pretty one-sided, or is there mad potential here for a 6 series?
Genji has crazy potential. What we saw from Sean and Kohler especially was beautiful. Like Kohler, like honestly, he's the truth. I never watched CS, so I didn't know what to expect from him. But even when they were losing, he was on top, just doing whatever it took to win. And this is the beauty of it. Sean sucked. He sucked at first. And it took him a while to warm up. And like,
let him know.
but this is the thing. But this is the flip side. Sean flipped the switch and woke up, and automatically, the moment he woke up, and I'm not talking about, oh, you just got one kill. I'm talking about he woke up and just started getting 2 kills around, 3 kills around. Like, he took over, and he went from the bottom to just about the top of the leaderboard, and they were automatically the better team. And it was just way too late, though. It went neck to neck on the map. I forgot which map it was. I think it was Bind I'm talking about. But I think that Gen G, they potentially, potential-wise, they better. Am I making sense right now, Vans?
I mean, I guess if you're looking on paper, there's a possibility that they might look better.
Energy
but
right now are better to me, though.
that's what I'm saying. Energy definitely looks better in that case. I mean, if you're looking at these highlights, you're looking, look at this roster you're looking right now, right through the POV of Sam, doing very great as well, playing as Raze. They're flexing on a lot of different agents as a whole. And when we first started casting Valorant and theory crafting about these agent compositions, we always thought about one-trick ponies, but a lot of these teams are not developing into different agents so that they could have different types of play styles on all these 5 maps. And when you have players like EU even playing as a smoke agent instead of a Silva and still able to pop off, I mean, that in itself is already a big win. Daps also has been playing super well in the VCTs, and people have always doubted him in terms of like his CS skills. As for me, he's one of like the biggest masterminds in North America back then, alongside of Stanislaw, in terms of NA calling, at least for Canadian ones, for me, Canadian callers, and I love that from these two guys. So to see Daps being able to call for the team right now, brand new into the game, brand new into the role, like 2 months, and now even able to put up numbers. The team in itself just looks very, very good. And then Shanks is starting to feel himself a little bit too. He's starting to get a couple of rounds, or should I say, a couple of good matches. And when he's able to not necessarily pop off, but to do what he needs to do, the team is still looking like a team that's unstoppable.
He's always been nice. By the way, I think I said Color. I meant Kusta. I'm not sure.
Kusta,
which name
Kusta,
I said.
Yeah, we got you, fam.
Yeah.
How does it feel that we're going to be watching this tournament that does not feature T1, C9 Blue, TSM, 100 Thieves, etc.? Does it bother you, or are you happy?
No.
Are you glad to see that there's like a reckoning for these teams that maybe got a little bit complacent? Where are we at on this?
Don't fucking lose. Like, I don't feel bad. like what are we really supposed to do, right?
Man.
Oh, TSM 100 Thieves not in here. They lost. Like, what are we really supposed to say to that? T1, bye, and Box was a better team.
Bye,
but
bitch.
But this is the beauty of it when it comes to storylines, right? The next time we have these VCTs, now we really get to see, okay, are these just excuses, or are they not where we think they're supposed to be?
Yeah,
that's going to be the storyline.
I don't necessarily think that I'm worried. I'm more sad than anything else, because now when you get into the open qualifiers number 2, it's like, okay, only top 4 make it now to the close qualifiers. Then you lose that one, you have to requalify again. Now there's only the top 4 in that third open qualifier that's going to be able to make it into the last chance qualifier, pretty much, in the close qualifier. So it's going to be stressful times. And if I'm looking at qualifier number 2 and qualifier number 3, it's like, oh man, if we don't see a TSM, if we don't see 100 Thieves, if we don't see a Cloud9 Blue, it kind of comes down to like, oh man, we kind of wish we had a Gen G in the first strike. Oh, we kind of wish we had like a TSM into the Masters or stuff like that too. I mean, or should I say the close qualifiers or the challenger stage rather. It creates such good storylines to see like these teams that are super vocal, great personalities in the scene, to not make it is just heartbreaking as a fan of the scene and the community.
Yeah.
And obviously important looking forward as well. Europe's going to have their champions, their tour, their challenges kick off on the 4th, right? So it's not too long away from here. So looking ahead, not only do we have, of course, this closed qualifier now for NA, but Europe's going to kick up as well. So we have a ton of hype already built up, I think, from the Red Bull home grounds, because it felt like a legitimate event despite the slight gimmick of like the home maps and stuff. So I'm getting really excited for EU Valorant's great, because if my son's going to keep me up, I'm just going to, watch it on the phone, like 6 a.m. in the morning and enjoy that.
Yes.
What a huge show. Obviously, we've gone a little bit longer this week for a couple of reasons. We 3 grizzled, salty veterans, had some things to get off our chests, but I want to thank Vanseli and Valley for once again joining me this week, because there was so much to get through. And again, we have some really crisp insight from both of you. It's been a pleasure.
Much love.
next week, we're going to have more to talk about as well because we need to see the aftermath here. In 2 days, all the tournaments kick off again. We have the aftermath, of course, the closed qualifier here at NA. We've got EU starting to kick up. The good Valorant keeps coming, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to keep up with what we're doing here on this show, if you want to go back and watch it on YouTube and clip me just screeching like a banshee, exclamation mark Valoranting in the chat, we'll get you the YouTube link right now. It doesn't have its own sort of customized link. Obviously, you can follow us on Twitter at DNPeak. And obviously here, if you're here, you found the channel live. It's twitch.tv/DNPeak if you're watching on the VOD. We'd love to have you join us. Next week, 11 a.m. PT. Perhaps I'll have slept properly, won't be in such a bad mood. We'll be back with more Valoranting. What's up, Billy? What's up?
Tomorrow on Wednesdays, man, Silly and I, we actually stream. We're going to have watch parties. We play with viewers. You know, we have fun. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And if you guys see this on YouTube, make sure to comment, wow, that last announcement was ridiculous. Let's do some chat chat level clickbait there. So make sure if you do see it, type in chat or in the comments on YouTube, incredible last announcement. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week. Until then, stay frosty and good luck out there in Valorant.
Peace, guys.